What's going on, y'all? You know what it is. If it's Sunday night, it is Sippin on Sundays. It's Mr. Campbell sitting in the home office in Atlanta. And you know what it is, man. My North Jackson little brother, man. The man, the data analyst, the man that had to let folks know the real numbers, behind the numbers, soon to be married. My brother, man, I respect. Zoe Phillips. Zoe, what's going on?
What's happening, man? What's happening?
Hey, man, listen, it's a lot going on, man. Zoe and I just had a quick conversation, man. We're going to have to add some conversation, man. Listen, let me explain something to y'all, man, about Sippin on Sundays. We have a really good time, but one thing about it, Sippin on Sundays is rooted in the history of Mississippi. And if you know anything about Mississippi, Mississippi was home of freedom fighters, Zoe. Folks that fought so we could be on this YouTube and say all this crazy stuff. Because, you know, it tickles me, man. You know, Scott had been gone, man, what, 5 months, right? But you know what I found out? Everybody say, oh, Scotty was the one that being so tight. You know what I found out, Zone? Scotty gone, and people still doing the same old stuff. Still doing the same old stuff. So, man, I'm just letting you know that some of you all need to change act. But me and Zoe going to talk about some things, man, because big things happen with the Supreme Court. We got to talk about that, man, because that affects black folks, man. It's graduation season. Got to talk about what's going on with, and shout out to all the grads, man, doing it big, you know, walking across that stage and, you know, saw all those people. Shout out to, of course, got to shout out to those FAMU rallies. Got to shout out to those Jackson State Tigers. All those people going across the stage, man. Those are home folks and stuff like that. About to be productive citizens, productive people, as some people say it somewhere else. Shout out to Glenn. That's what's going on, man. But you know what, those here's the thing. And I think I want to start off with this. We had something that happened, and you know what? I tell you what, let's start with something positive. Let's do this. Let's start off. We're gonna start. Me and Zoe about to get into it tonight, y'all. What's going on, Big Glenn? Shout out to Glenn 1906. You know, let me give a quick shout out. Shout out, what is this? SQLQ dog. He said, how did diet going?
So shout far, so good.
Baby. Congratulations, Kenneth. He said his grandnephew to graduate.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations and everything like that. My goddaughter, she graduated this weekend, man. Which took me down.
From where?
FAMU, boy. FAMU, veterinary science.
I thought you were going to say Jack State.
Oh, no. She Florida A&M. Florida A&M. Me and her daddy met 1988. Been boys ever since, man. Proud of Kennedy Michelle Bonds. Summa cum laude.
Oh, man. Hold on. Pause. Her last name Bonds for real?
Bonds.
So I wasn't gonna even say this, but literally, dude, about an hour before the show started, I got a call. My dad called me, man. I had lost my uncle today.
Oh no!
And my uncle passed away, and his name is Anthony Bonds.
Now, he's from Mississippi?
He's from Mississippi, but he actually lived in Rochester, New York.
Oh, okay. So,
and I wasn't gonna even say anything about it, but when you said her name, I was like, wow, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, you know, man. So I want to talk about, man. You see, this is a great thing, man. And shout out to all my people. Shout out to Aggie 76. What's up? Keep it up, fam. Don't cause no problems in here tonight. We rocking tonight. But I'm gonna tell you, man, what I think is great, man. And this goes to why I always tell people to go to HBCUs, man. Because the network zone is the network. And the network doesn't just stay with your school. You know what I mean? We laugh and joke. But if somebody from Bethune-Cookman needs some help, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna help them. Somebody at Tennessee State needs a hookup, I'm gonna hook them up, and vice versa. So, man, we were down here, and man, great speaker that spoke at our graduation, and what he did, and we're gonna talk a little bit about it. I know, though, you have seen our great drum major. They call her Dupe, the head drum major. So she has gotten a brand deal from Procter & Gamble.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, so listen, so we're gonna talk about this. This is what I'm talking about. Hey man, listen, this is what I'm talking about. Shalom, my brother, Black Caesar. This is what I'm talking about, how great when you're part of this HBCU family. So we're gonna talk about this article. Shout out to HBCU Game Day. Vaughn Wilson wrote this. So this is what's so amazing. So I'm sitting up here. So Omar Goff, FAMU alumnus, influential brand leader, currently serves as the Indian commercial leader for Head & Shoulders North America. Now I know y'all, everybody used Head & Shoulders once. I know. Now I ain't like, yeah, don't act like it. And previously Mael as president, founder acquisition of Procter & Gamble. With more than 20 years at P&G, he has played a key role in building culturally resonant campaigns. As a graduate of FAMU School of Business, which I'm part of, Goff built a career in intersecting business with cultural impact. So what he did, and I'm going to let him say it what himself, because he said this at the graduation. As we pull it up. Hold on. There we go. So this is him talking, and he's going to talk about connections and how important these connections mean. Listen to this brother rock.
It featured two dynamic FAMUans, Mr. Jaden Sparkman and one of our graduates today, Zaria Salter. Can you please stand? I know you're here today. That wasn't just a cover. That was me sending a signal that HBCU talent belongs front and center in the most visible ways. And now, as I lead Head & Shoulders in North America, I carry that same responsibility. Yes, I help people get rid of dandruff for a living. In fact, one of our graduates today, Dupe, are you here? When I saw this first, I knew he was a great embodiment of what I'm all about. And next week you will see Dupe represent the Head & Shoulders brand in her first brand deal, first of many. Congratulations.
That's what's up.
Okay, so
See, so this
That's
is what we
what's
do now. This is what we do at Florida A&M University. We make stuff happen. Now, many people should know, and again, I'm gonna play this because I think and this is what's so great about, again, what our bands and what our schools do. So again, not only being the first female drum major, she also, this is what made her go viral.
The screen froze.
Yeah. What about now?
There you go.
There you go. But this is what actually got her and put her on the map. This right here, her coming out. This is what I'm talking about, how creative that we are. So this is Dupe. She plays Beta Alpha Chapter Delta Sigma Theta. And this is what got her on Centers and got her on the radar screen right here. So.
I remember this.
Change the game when that digital drop. Stay on your feet, you know I'm gonna pop. I stop the world. Male or female, it make no difference. I stop the world. World. When I march on the field, all eyes on me. Got the whole world roaring about my place in history. From the runway to the stage, entertainment guaranteed. The truth has to be real. I'm repping BADST.
Here comes the fire part though right here.
Greeting. I am Ore Oluwa Modupe Oloyede. A senior theater performance scholar from Atlanta, Georgia.
Shout out, ATL. That right there got that young lady with the help of a FAMU alumnus, a brand deal with Procter & Gamble, head and shoulders right there. So you can't tell me that when you go to an HBCU, you can't get it done. You can't tell me that people are not looking at you. You can't tell. And this could have been any school. This could have been Southern. It could have been Jack State, Texas Southern, Prairie View, Tennessee State, North Carolina A&T. But the reason why I showed that, because we're in graduate season, this just shows you the power of our alums and how we always, because we talked about it. When the Michael Jackson movies wanted to be promoted, did they go get Ohio State?
Nope.
USC band?
Nope.
The millionaire band from Alabama?
Nope.
They went and got the Marching 100, head drum major Dupe, the Sonic Boom of the South Jackson State, and the Human Jukebox Southern University. Now, all I know is I don't care what nobody say, because I just call that I'm going to help bring something to all the schools. And I explained to them, there's a reason why the Michael movie came to us, because we moved the needle, so we make it happen. So I just think that's just so great, man, which leads me into something else. And, man, shout out to South Carolina State, man. So I went out last week, a place called Chicago Pizza. You know, I'm sitting up here about the park. Brother pulled past me. Oh, you know what Chicago Pizza at?
On Highland Parkway.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, out there, you know, a little something out there hanging out, Zoe. So got the Escalade all nice and clean.
My spot on Sunday. That's another story for another day.
So this brother whips past me in a Range Rover. Gonna take my spot. And I said, hey, man, listen, bro, I know you're young and everything. I'm like, bro, but you know, I'm about to pull in. All I hear is, oh, Mr. Campbell. I said, wait a minute. He said, man, I watch you and Zoe every Sunday, man. I play football at South Carolina State. So shout out to my man, Rob. Rob do a little podcast, stuff like this. I don't know Rob is
Shout out, Rob.
Shout out. So he said, hey, man, I'm sorry about that, Mr. Campbell, man. You know, so like I said, we got people watching this. So, but, you know, I'm saying that, man, because something amazing happened in South Carolina State this week.
Yeah, man.
I am super, super, super proud. So I'm going to pull up first the governor, because they were going to have the lieutenant governor, Pamela Everett. She was going to speak at the graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, that has happened before. but politicians speaking. But Miss Everett is a Trumper. So she cut a little ad. Shout out to A-Will 38. Was in the house. A little ad there, Zoe, because there was a little pushback. So this is what she did right here. And then we're going to show what my folks in South Carolina State had to stand up and do. So this is her response when they first started talking about it.
Well, I was at the White House today. I heard about what's happening on the campus of SC State University. Let's fax Trump feelings in the real world. President Trump and conservatives have done more for HBCUs than any administration in history. I must be doing something right, because woke mobs are coming after me for being a champion of eliminating radical DEI scams on college campuses. So bring it on. Just like President Trump, I'll never back down or bend a knee to the woke radicals. I'm ending DEI on campuses once and for all. Stay tuned. I have a lot more to say about this later. In the meantime, I look forward to celebrating commencement with the students and faculty at SC State. Well, I was at the White House.
So her answer, I just want to say, her answer gives credence to why she shouldn't have been there.
And that's the thing. But you know what, though? So I'm gonna tell you something. I come from, and you know, we talked about this, man. I come from people that marched. We talked about that. Shout out to the folks in the 60s from Jackson State that marched from the plaza, when you know where you could drive through the plaza though back then, all the way to the Capitol. Now, so you know that's a straight shot, but ain't no easy walk. And you know when them boys and young ladies was walking, they was in heels though, and then them church shoes, they were looking clean. Them boys.
Yep.
So, man, I come from that, and I see that I think a lot of times, though, a lot of our kids, they're sleeping. But there are certain schools historically, though, HBCUs, that were always on the forefront of civil rights. Jack State was one of them. Tougaloo, Tennessee State,
A&T.
Alabama State, North Carolina A&T, and South Carolina. And in the spirit of South Carolina State, shout out to these students who understood and stood on business. So I was amazed at this young lady and my South Carolina State people. I'm trying to track this young girl down because I'm trying to give her a little something for graduation. So this was her, young lady, responding to having the lieutenant governor coming to their school for graduation. And I thought this was amazing.
It was.
This isn't a political issue. It's not a Democratic or Republican Party issue. It's not about that. It's a morality issue. We're here. We've been here for 4 or 5 years. Commencement. We should have someone who's going to celebrate us. How can someone who goes against everything that we stand for and believe, how can that person uplift me on my day of stepping into the real world? How can I don't feel supported. It's nothing that she can say that will make me feel encouraged to step out into this society, a society where the America and the country that I believe in, she don't have that same agenda. And I want to say something, being conservative is not the issue. That's all right. We all have our own political views. But she's explicitly said, I am a Trump conservative. Okay, if you believe in Trump, you support pedophilia, you support bigotry, you support racism, what else? Pro police, the same police that's killing our people, the same. And she also would like to have, because I would say a concentration camp. That's what it is. That's not what they're calling it. But y'all want to bring one of those here to our state, to South Carolina. That's what y'all believe in. We don't believe in that. South Carolina State has a history of being activists and being proactive and standing up and believing in what's right. We have Hamilton, and who have died when they believe in. South Carolina State is an active representation of that. We acknowledge that every year. So how can someone who doesn't even respect that come and encourage us and uplift us at a graduation? Things that we have worked hard for. She don't. And let me say another thing. This lady is running for government. It just seems a little bit quick. Let me make sure I'm saying right. Quick pro. Yeah. You know what I'm saying. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. What exactly is? Because I know we like to say, hey, it's a university. We have to do this to benefit our university. But what is the student? The people who are actively going here, the people who have the numbers and the majority. What are we gaining from this? Because to me, and to a lot of, it seems like she's doing this person. It's for her political agenda.
Thank all of you for being here, and I've heard your concerns.
No response for it.
So that young lady, and this is what I'm talking about when you go to HBCU. She named them names. She said the first week we get here, we learn this history. First week we get here, we learn this history. Name the names, the shoulders we stand on. And needless to say, the offer to speak at the graduation was rescinded. Shout out to those young folks in the state, man. So proud because, man, you have so many people. Oh, well, you better not do that because somebody gonna get you. You better not do that because you might not get no job. I'm gonna tell this young lady, you ain't gotta worry about that. Because just like how you saw that Rattler, if you ain't got no job, you make sure you get in contact with me. We'll find you a job. And I know the South Carolina State people gonna make sure she good. Because this is what I'm talking about, what you got to stand up. Because so at this stage of the game, we got too many people that's not standing up, bro. We got to, and shout out Blue Jay, hey man, find me that girl's info. Because we want to give her a little something over here sipping on Sunday for graduation. I'm dead serious about that. Because this is what I'm talking about. So when you sit back, when you saw this though, and you saw, and I'm not going to play because I'm not going to waste the time. Because the governor, the lieutenant, she cut a whole, she cut a commercial on this with the video about, this woke mob all of a sudden. So what do you think about what the students at South Carolina State, and what do you think about the president saying that the lieutenant governor wasn't going to come speak?
Well, again, man, kudos to the young lady at South Carolina State, man. She spoke very eloquently and clearly, with vigor. And I wish that she would have gave the commencement speech for the actual graduating class because she presented herself to be a great leader and an asset to South Carolina State. But that lieutenant governor, man, I'm not surprised, and none of us should be. But again, all she came on the screen to do was give a political answer. But even in her answer, she pretty much proved all the young lady's words to be true. The fact that you're speaking to a college student and your reply is woke radical, right? So basically, it's students at this school. So that means the students, because there's a room full of them, I mean, all these students are woke radicals, right? And again, why would you, being a Trump supporter, want to give a commencement speech at a place full of woke radicals, right? So again, they put foot in mouth all the time. But here's the irony, though, because I can say the same thing about South Carolina as we can in Mississippi. That same lieutenant governor, which they have Confederate things all around the state in South Carolina as well. I'm willing to bet you she could tell me all the things about Strom Thurmond, but she could tell me nothing about, saying any type of civil rights leader who lived and did their thing in South Carolina. I can assure you, without using Google, she can't tell me nothing. She can't tell me all the things or the great alums and beneficial people who attended and did work at South Carolina State. I guarantee you she couldn't tell me a handful of them, but I can assure you she can name me all the racist Confederates who did what they need to do when South Carolina State, who was the first state, let me add, to succeed from the Union, the first state. Quite sure she can name me plenty of those guys because, man, look, they play in our face all day long. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, we talk about woke radicals, but they never talk about them in regards to wanting to preserve all things racial with regards to the Civil War. They committed treason to this country, yet they never talk about that. And they should be vilified, but they don't talk about that. They want to preserve and have Confederate holidays, right? Even to this day. But they want to talk about woke radicals. So it doesn't make sense, man. It is what it is. They literally play in our face all day long. And but again, why this woman was even considered to even give, some commencement speeches beyond me. Because honestly, man, the young lady she said something so eloquent when she first started, right? That same woman doesn't have anyone who attended this school best interest at heart. So basically anything that she come to say at that graduation was bull jive. Because the moment they swing their tassels over to the right and they step foot out the arena or the stadium where they graduate from, she's going to she's doing her job is to work against those very same people. And she do it every day. So my thing is, knowing that's the case, why would you even allow anyone with that ilk and that quality of that fabric of that person, man, to come to one of our beloved places, a cocoon of Black love, unity, and a haven for all things Black and Black culture? Why would you even have that bull jive up on your campus? I say it for all of them. Saying all of them. And like I said, kudos to her, man, because she spoke so eloquently. And, that's one thing I'm going to carry with me, that she said, why. And I think that needs to be the standard of every HBCU, every university. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to sit here and if you can't find someone who actually speaks for all people, for all races, lo and behold, the Black ones at a Black institution, you don't need to be here. You know what I'm saying? And you can miss with that bull job about, he's the president that's done the most for HBCUs. I can assure you, she hasn't even fact checked that to know that to be true. She's only saying the very same thing that an orange dude did. Because if he hadn't said it, she would have even quoted him and said that. So again, they're sheep. They do as they're told. And let me rephrase that. They're racist sheep, and they do as they're told. Because, man, that's bull job. And she should never be there. Ever. You're muted, Steve.
The one thing that I think is important, and I think we've all been to graduation, we've been part of graduations, we've had people graduate. A graduation is supposed to be a joyous occasion. If you want to come, now I will say this to the lieutenant governor. You want to come to South Carolina State? Come have a forum. Well, we can have a real debate. Don't come to my graduation. You come and let me show you how to educate our political science majors, our business majors, our English majors, our sociology majors. And then let's see how quick you get your ass up off that stage. when you feel that ease. See, they don't never want to do that zone.
Nope.
They don't never want to come have an exchange of ideas. But you want to come and think you're going to talk down to me at my graduation and tell me that I'm a mob, woke mob, and I'm going to bring it. And I in the DEI that everybody look at your company that you got money because of affirmative action, that you promoted DEI because you're a white woman. Nah, bro. So my thing is, so that's why I hate when people try to be slick with it. Well, she should be able to come to the camp. She can come to the camp. I don't think South Carolina would ever have any problem for her to come to the camp and have a forum. Come see, because what you think, you won't find a part of education. Because I'm going to tell you one thing about it. You come on any one of these camps, they're going to be prepared. They're going to be prepared. So, but do not think you're going to come and dim our light and make brownie points so you can cut a commercial. So you can say, I walked in their DNA house and I told them blankety blanks. I won't use the word what's in her mind. So that, you know, so my thing is, shout out to that young lady. So my South Carolina State people, hey man, listen, do me a favor. Y'all know how to get in contact with me. Y'all give me that young girl's info, man, so I can give her a little something for graduation, because I'm so proud of her, because she stood on business, because I'm just tired, man. We've been asleep at the wheel. And that gives me hope, because that is in the finest. Because you know what, so I always hear people say this. Marching don't matter. Every time people say that, it gets proven wrong. Every time they get said that. You cannot create a movement on social media and think them folks are going to listen to you. Because they're not. Because you know who you're doing, talking to on social media now? People that's just like you. But I tell you what, when that young lady did that speech, guess what? We played on SIppin on Sundays. That's exactly what we did. We played on SIppin. Yep. Hey, but see, that's the problem. The fight ain't over. Which is going to lead us into something. And again, we talk a little bit of politics tonight. SIppin on Sundays on the Off Script Network, on the Rocky Mill Channel. Mr. Campbell, Zoe Fields, graduation season, political season. We changed it up a little bit. So Zoe, we from the great state of Mississippi, where people literally, historically, that are known, die for your right and my right to vote. Die for your right to ride in a bus. Die for your right.
I would venture to say we have more people die here for the right to vote than any other state in the union.
You better believe it. To a point was on, and I've told this story many times. Everybody knows the state come in October. I think it's like the second week of October, if I believe. I think it's the second week.
Second.
When my mother was coming through there, so they now you know it go for 2 weeks, right? The fair go 2 weeks, 2 weekends, right?
2 weeks.
That Tuesday when when the fair will close down, that's when the black people in Jackson could go to the fair. They could only go on that Tuesday. When my mother, and y'all hear me talk about that, I got a lot of family down there on the Gulf Coast. We had a hotel down there. When my mother would drive from Jackson down 49, she couldn't go in the bathroom zone. She would have to use the bathroom on the side of the road. So I say that to say voting matters. So this Supreme Court, 3 justices put on by Donald Trump, did this past week. And we're going to bring it up.
While you bring it up, I just want to add, voting matters, but representation matters.
Which this is definitely going to talk about that. The Supreme Court yesterday, which wasn't yesterday, this was early in the week, gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The 6-3 decision effectively nullifies Section 2, and as Justin Kagan wrote in the dissent, threatens a half-century worth of gains of voting equally. Now, what is Section 2? Section 2 addresses racial vote dilution, a tactic commonly used to reduce the power of black voters in the South at the Voting Rights Act. When states could no longer deny ballots to African Americans, black Americans, they used electoral maps and a large election system to give minority citizens votes, no or minimum weight. As with other racially discriminatory voting practices, states obscured their intention with race-neutral language and justifications, which made it extremely difficult for voters to prove intentional discrimination. So Congress conditioned Section 2 liability, not on intent, but on the discriminatory effects of a districting scheme, and transfers Section 2 an effective tool for communities challenge racial discrimination in voting. So basically, this was talking about the gerrymandering. In 1982, an amendment to Section 2 led to a dramatic increase in representation. While only 18 black people were elected to 96 Congress in 1979 to 1881, The 119 Congress included 65 Black representatives and 5 senators. Nationwide, the number of Black election officials has surged. Louisiana drew a map, congressional map, one district where out of 6 were Black voters who make up a third of the population had a realistic chance of electing a candidate. Now, mind you, in Louisiana, 1/3 of the Black people, though, 1/3 of the voters are Black in Louisiana. So they drew this particular congressional district and basically stuffed all the Black people basically in this because it's a crazy looking district. But you know what the white folks said? So we ain't gonna let y'all have that. And now the Supreme Court struck that down where now you can not worry about the Voting Rights Act, Section 2 anymore. What you think about that, Zone?
Well, first things first, you guys just wait and see. And I'm gonna use Mississippi for an example. Everybody knows that in District 2 is held by Benny Thompson, and pretty much it ran from all throughout the Delta, pretty much all, urban, and highlight Black voters, and Benny Thompson would have it. And the problem is, and I'm just saying because y'all don't know, he would win and they would hate it because he was like, well, he's going to win anyway because I want you to hear me clearly. He's going to win anyway because it's mostly Black voters. Literally what's being said and what's being said every year. But then they don't talk about the rest of the state. So it's a problem when you have a dense Black population to where most Black votes can go. But it's an issue when you go to Northeast Mississippi and it's probably 85% white, right? And then you go throughout the state. Mississippi, by and large, is the Blackest state in this country per capita. It's not even close, right? When you talk about the sheer number of Black people, but we're still a minority within the state. And so I can assure you, when you see the new lines in this state, they're going to split it in half and draw it purposely because here's the thing. They know where everybody lives. They know the demographic of where everyone lives. They're going to draw the lines to make sure now Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and North Carolina will be all red. I mean, you see it clear as day. They've already pulled their hand. You want to make sure that it's all red. And they're going to purposely draw it so the votes can go in their favor to be all red, and everything that can be everything is going to be Republican. That's all that's going to happen. I said Alabama, every state in the South. They're going to do this on purpose. And again, it's a shame. And Steve, just give me a minute because I told you earlier, but my only issue with this is it's not even that they're doing it. My issue is Black people. My issue is we're not outraged enough that the fact that this happened. Like, do y'all understand? It's the year of our Lord 2026, and they just rejected and repealed something that all of our ancestors fought and died for. They repealed something that they fought and died for during the Civil Rights Movement to get done. Because there's only one thing left. I hope you guys know that. And that's the actual Civil Rights Bill that Martin Luther King were able to get signed by Lyndon B. Johnson. It was these two things that was the major fight outside of Alabama boycott. Boycott. But these were the two major things that actually happened outside of the Brown versus Board of Education. But these are the two mainstays, man. And this is crazy. But we're not outraged enough for my liking. I'm gonna be honest. We already don't move as a unit, and we really need to. And I hope this lights a fire under a good segment of us so we could actually do something, because I don't know if y'all actually have had conversations, but this is a very poignant and significant thing and a change for Black Americans in this country when this happened. And there's been some other things coming down the pipe, and I'm telling you, there are some more stark changes that's going to be happening between now and next year and the year after that. And we're going to have to do something, man, because if we sit down and had a real conversation, nobody can really tell you where we headed when we talk about going to 2027. It's about to be summertime of 2026, and there's a lot going on, but we're not outraged enough for my liking. I mean, you talk about, I mentioned to Steve, you talk about this, right? I gave the example. I want, by if y'all could put in the comments, how many of y'all bank with Wells Fargo? I want y'all to put in the chat. How many of y'all just say I do? Who bank with Wells Fargo in here? Right? I want to see if y'all gonna put some answers. Please, if y'all do, let me know who in here banks with Wells Fargo. Because I'm gonna give an example. Like, we got stuff happening, like I just said about the governor and how they do in South Carolina, man. These people play in our face all day long. They play in our face and we don't do nothing. We just go along like
Hey,
it's
so
like,
hold on, just real quick. This is the first time me and you both freezing up. You know the man don't like this conversation because we getting froze up every time now.
oh yeah, my bad. But
No,
my
they
thing
ain't
is,
got nothing to do with you, bro. Go ahead.
but my thing is, we're not upset enough, because I mentioned to Steve, I was like, you look at like Wells Fargo, right? They've been sued on and fined at least 2 times in my adult life for redlining, and yet we still bank with them. Like I said, they play on our top, they play in our face all the time, and we're not outraged enough. It's like we get mad for 72 hours, then we go on about our business. But like, man, we got to do something. Because Steve, another thing, with this change, this actually may rid the Congressional Black Caucus. It's a possible. It's a possibility that it could actually rid it, because you're going to actually get rid of so many other Black people that's in the legislature. Like, this is, I'm telling you, you guys probably can't see it, but the thing is, we have to stop waiting until things get to our front door, Steve, to react from the Black diaspora. It's almost like we're numb to everything, or got you know what I'm saying, some type of post-traumatic syndrome, man. So, you know what I'm saying, with all of it, until it actually happens to us. Man, when you see, like Martin Luther King said, man, an injustice anywhere, you know what I'm saying, is an injustice, you know, man, where it is. Like, it affects us all. You got to see it happen to the next man. But it's happening, man. Look, if it happened to any of Black people, I don't care if it's California, man, then it affects Black people in Mississippi, Black people in South Carolina. We got to move as one, y'all, because this is going to be a major, major thing for all of us. I'm telling you, all of us, because now just think, the whole entire South, we already know there was a red state, but you had people that had a voice that could possibly, you know, politic and lobby and get some things done in the White House. Man, those days are about to be over. You're literally about to go back to something, Steve. I'm be quiet. I'm gonna leave this and I'm gonna say this. Starting, I don't know if it's gonna be 2027 or 2028, but I can assure you, when it comes to the entire Southeast, in every state, we are about to go something that hasn't been done since I've been alive, and I'm 47 years old. I'll be 48 in September. We're about to go back to where the whole entire state, all of them, are going to be completely red, or back then they were completely blue. They switched, but that's another conversation. But my point is, all these people who don't have your best interest at heart are about to take over everything. So we're talking about, before Blacks will go back to vote, to have the right to vote, you know what I'm saying, having anybody lobbying on your behalf, we're literally going back to that. And so when Obama became president, so this is what Make America Great is. When we talk about MAGA, this is what MAGA is. MAGA is going back to what America was back during Jim Crow and prior to that. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. It's exactly what they're putting in place. And we're not outraged enough for it, to my life.
See, so Evan, I put this up here, and let me tell you something. I'm a big political guy, but let me tell you something. And I wanted to just show you one thing, because when I saw this, let me tell you something. Alito and Justice Roberts, and you go learn, he knows about civil rights, because, and this is Justin William Brennan from the Brennan's from the Brennan Center of Justice. This is an article they just wrote. Chief Justice Roberts' vendetta against the Voting Rights Act. He has been rallying against it since the early 80s. Early 80s, Emmett. So, bro, he knows what he's doing. He was put on here. This was his whole goal, to dismantle your civil rights. You go read this white man's early writings, is all you know. So don't act like he's sitting up there, oh, we're just doing this because, you know, there's no need for these type of things anymore. It's all good now, bro. Do not be fooled for that. And I'm just letting you guys know, this is why this is important, man, because, listen, you know, and I saw somebody saying, you know, and shout out, hey, listen, man, all I want, and this is perfect right here. More folks worried about Megan Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson than this right here. Klay and Meg don't give a damn. But you need to be worried about this. You need to be worried. And I'm going to say something too, man, because the big deal is this, and I hear this both sides, hey, they vote for this and they vote for that, man. But let me tell you something. I'm going to pull something up that answers that question, because I've heard this too many times. Because again, if you vote, you all vote, those things that you think they're not addressing, you can put pressure on. But this brother right here, Isaac Hayes, shout out to Isaac Hayes, made a post, and I'm going to play this in its entirety because he speaks to some of this stuff that I've been hearing. And there's been a lot of pushback because you've seen like people like Eddie Glaude, Killer Mike, Mark Lamont Hill. Oh, they were talking about, well, don't vote. I'm holding my vote. Cornel West and stuff like that. So my man, Isaac Hayes, got a message for these guys.
For y'all keep running your mouth. The strongest provisions of the Voting Rights Act have been removed by a majority Republican Supreme Court. That affects Black people. So there is no two sides of the same bird. Republicans don't want Black people to vote. Democrats do. Now, for those of you that say stop blaming Black men for not voting for Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton and start putting these 85% of Black men voted stat, that's not the issue. It's not about the Black men that voted for Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton. It's about the Black people that did not vote at all. Did you know out of the 40 plus million Black people that are in the United States of America, 30 million are of the age to vote? Of those 30 million, only 20 million are registered to vote. That means 10 million people, 10 million Black people in this country are not registered to vote. Because of this decision by the Supreme Court, every single Black person in the United States of America of voting age should register to vote right now. You're not fooling anybody with that stat. 85% of Black men voted for Hillary. You didn't vote. We know you didn't vote because you was talking that bullshit about two sides of the same bird. I'm just going to sit at home on the couch and all that. And this is where it's gotten us. So cut that shit out. All right? You're not fooling nobody. That's not a stat to throw around like you won some shit, like you telling some. No, you don't vote at all. You don't vote locally. You don't vote nationally. You don't vote at all. And that's the problem. We got to start voting, like as a culture, as a practice, as a people, because elections are simple. Majority rules. If you don't participate, somebody decides for you. I'm tired of that happening for us in places where I know we can win elections, in places like Georgia, in places like Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana. I'm tired of it. No, there's no excuse. Every single Black person in this country should register to vote. Every single. We need 30 million people to register to vote. It'll change the trajectory of Black existence in this country tremendously, because we will shape rules that benefit us, particularly in the South, if you want to get real gutter with it. So cut all this bullshit out. It's not about not voting for Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris. It's about not voting at all. And we know you didn't. And we're not listening to y'all no more. Your time is up. It didn't work. Party's over. See you in November.
All right. Now, Mike, you my guy. And I just saw something. Let me see where you at. Because like I say, but I want where is this at? You totally didn't hear what he said. That's exactly what he said. It ain't about the percentage. It's about the number. That's what it's not about that. And listen, you talking about you done your part. Bro, no, you have not done your part if you didn't vote. And the point of what we just said is we can't sit back here. The fight ain't over. Zoe literally just told you what happened in this Supreme Court decision. So you can't sit back and say, oh, Mr. Campbell, I did my part. Isaac Hayes III, and shout out to him, did work with my father. He's telling you that's not who he's talking to. And that's why he didn't want to hear that. So no disrespect to you, Mike, because I know you're an upstanding brother. I know you voted. I believe that. And I don't care who you voted for. I just want you to vote. So I'm going to say that right now. But the point of it is that we cannot sit back here and act like this stuff don't matter.
Well, I ain't gonna say the same thing. I'm This is Zoe's independent thought, by the way. My
But
thoughts
I'm
have
gonna
nothing
say,
to do
I'm
with
gonna let you. Yeah, I'm gonna let you say what I wanted to say. But go right ahead.
This is Zoe's independent thoughts. My thoughts are my own and don't reflect Steve Campbell, but I don't see how any black person votes for Donald Trump. I don't.
Well,
I don't see how any black person sit there and you have people like this lieutenant governor or people who sit here and do all these things that work against you day in and day out. Not only did they repel the draw the lines, but then they put everything in place every year in my adult life to try to restrict black and brown voters to not have the ability to vote, to take away the ability to vote. And yet you still want to vote for them or vote for Donald Trump. Like it's asinine to me. And I'm saying it. I don't see how any black person or brown person can sit here and vote for Donald Trump. Literally. I do not. There's nothing that he has done that's going to benefit you in any shape, form, or fashion. Nothing. Not one single thing.
Damn.
And
Well,
even wealthy people will say, "Oh, well, I got money, so I'm a Republican." I don't care to party lines, but I'm specifically speaking to Donald Trump. I don't see how any black person can sit there and vote for Donald Trump. I don't at all.
Period. So again, this goes back to this young lady, high tied in him from South Carolina State, what she was taught, what you learned. Now, me and Mike, you went to Morgan State. No, there's a proud tradition. I don't know it, so I'm not going to sit up here and quote it. But I do, like I say, know about the Greensboro 4, North Carolina A&T, Fisk, Tuskegee, Jackson State, FAMU, Alabama State, Southern, Texas Southern. I know what those schools did during that time. And this will be unacceptable. So we don't roll like that on Sippin' on Sunday because we are built on that. So I want to say that, though, because I want to pull one thing up. Because if you don't think the power don't matter, because this is one little part that we skipped over. After them black folks in South Carolina State stood up, pull it up. There we go. This is what the folks from South Carolina State, South Carolina said. We're going to defund South Carolina State. So, but some people said we did enough. They said if you don't want her to talk, we should not allow South Carolina State to have any money. I'm trying to get to their quote right here. Where is it? There was a quote in here where he said, because talking about a safety committee, saying, that's right, here it is. The House Freedom Caucus member requested that no funding be included for South Carolina State in the upcoming version of the state appropriations. If the lieutenant governor of South Carolina is unwelcome due to different political ideology and ability to keep her safe, it is time to defund and reevaluate. Now, Zoe, this is the same state that owes South Carolina State $500 million.
See, so again, it's like cutting your nose off to spite your face. So the thing is that, see, they talk about funding us as if like they're funding them like they're supposed to. And I can say the same thing for, guess what, Steve? Every single HBCU in the whole entire Southeast. Tennessee State is an ongoing thing right now with the state of Tennessee, and they were owed, I believe it was about $2 billion. Don't even get me started on Jackson State Valley and Alcorn, because Jackson State, for whatever reason, the state of Mississippi just refuses to build Jackson State, not just a dorm, but multiple dorms, that we need those. But yet, in the same time frame, in the past 10 years, Mississippi State and Ole Miss can get whatever they want at their beck and call, literally. And so again, and this is just Mississippi. I'm unsure with all things in Georgia, and I live there with regards to Morris Brown, Morehouse, and Clark, they're private. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing. Outside of Clark, I think Clark now is different. But when you talk about public HBCUs, all of them in the Southeast are getting screwed over for decades, for eons, for their respective states. So to sit here now and say, well, defund them, you know what I'm saying, when we haven't gotten what we've been due since the beginning of the time. You know, the one thing that all black people since the beginning of time, Eddie Robinson used to say it all the time, man, we've done so much with with nothing. We can make miracles with a little bit. Like, we've done so much with nothing. We can make miracles with a little bit. And again, one segment of people who always know how to, again, soul food came from the origins of giving a scrap, and us black people whole entire existence is on taking lemons and make lemonade. It's been our entire existence. So
Big
threatening black people with taking money away is not that great of a threat at all because we've done it for our entire existence.
That's just, again, when I saw that, man, I just wanted to die laughing. The level of hypocrisy. When you owe me $500 million, you say you ain't gonna give me no more money when you already owe me $500 million. That is the craziest thing to me. You owe me $500 million. Guaranteed facts. Ain't no dispute about it. And oh, by the way, hey, Steve, I ain't gonna give y'all no more money.
Hey, Steve, he's so great that wall. Look, he's so great that wall ain't been built. He's so great that you didn't get that $2,000 that you were gonna get. He's so great that we're losing the war they don't talk about, and they're losing.
All right, man. That was the political hour for today. Sipping on Sundays on the Off Script Network, Rocky Middle Channel, Mr. Campbell Zone. Talking a little bit of politics. Because we from Mississippi, that's what we do. We was raised on that. If you don't like it, as they say, don't follow us. Come back a little bit later. But now we get ready to talk about some sports zone. Because you know what? Something happened that looked like, again, somebody had to vote on. It looks like the NCAA is going to do a 5 for 5 zone. It looks like they're going to give y'all 5 years to get in and 5 years to get out. So here's a little breakdown graphic that I found. What the NCAA is going to do. The NCAA will move forward with a 5 for 5 eligibility rule change. So what does that mean? New NCAA eligibility model will not apply to current student athletes per NCAA release. The NCAA Division I Board of Directors directed Division I Cabinet to advance an age-based eligibility model that will allow student athletes up to 5 years of completion starting after they turn 19 or graduate high school, whichever comes first. The board emphasized that existing rules will remain in place for the current student athletes, allowing 4 seasons of completion within a 5-year eligibility window. The proposal is not expected to apply retroactively to student athletes whose eligibility is or will be completed by the spring of 2026. The Division I Cabinet is expected to continue discussion of the proposal. So, good, bad, we ain't gonna make a difference. What you think?
Man, it ain't good. And I mean, at this point, man, they're grasping for straws. Look, like all things, the NCAA doing what they're doing solely before the Power Four. And they're just all, it's just moist and wet right now because of Trinidad Chambers. And they're trying to force it in now because they lost when they got the injunction from the state of Mississippi. So they're scrambling because they want to try to do what they can to prevent him from playing in the fall. And they want to make an example of him and anybody else that goes down this pathway. They got, again, they're trying to flex what a meaningless power they have left. But anything that they do to mess with any of their precious institutions, and you know which one I'm talking about, all they're going to do is break away from them. NCAA has no leverage in any of this because even they're trying to force this through. And guess what else is going to happen, Steve? You're going to have some players and some schools that's going to what? File an injunction against it. Like they do everything else at this point. The hay is out the barn, man. So the NCAA, they're up shit creek right now. And they're going to try to pass this through. But I guarantee you, if it actually goes through, they're going to have something set up within the next 2 weeks because they're trying to force this in to start for this upcoming fall season. And if they get it to pass, you're going to see injunctions filed left and right.
So I wanted to give a little bit more. So Yahoo, again, under current NCAA rules, athletes are granted 4 playing seasons over a 5-year calendar with the option to gain a season of eligibility through redshirt or waiver request. While the new policy would grant athletes a 5th season of eligibility, the proposal set the starting date of the clock. But here it is. Most notably, as currently written, the proposal eliminates the ability for athletes to regain season of eligibility through red shirts, even for medical reasons. That's how some of these guys have played 6-7 years.
And waivers.
Mm-hmm. Which have complicated the eligibility system and resulted in many of the organization's legal entanglements. Those having their waiver request denied have lawyered up in an effort to regain years of eligibility. Some are asking for a nice season in college. The waiver lawsuits have left eligibility in the hands of various judges whose inconsistent rulings usher into the industry a new kind of inequality. So there you go. As an example, your boy Trinidad Chambers. There you go. They talked about it right there. So, man, listen, here's the thing. At face value, I like this. You get 5, you play 5. I'm not no fan of nobody 27 years old playing no college basketball or college football. But I do think that, again, if somebody's gotten hurt, I think there needs to be a medical exception in that. I do believe that. But once again, as long as it's going to stick. And
See,
then,
here's the problem.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And then the next thing I'm curious about with the 5. So again, you play 5 years, clock starts. So now you can't hide any freshmen anymore. You be able to play them. And you ain't got to worry about them losing a year of eligibility. But I think this is going to force these guys to stop playing around and recruit more high school players. Because you can have a longer runway now. Now you don't have to worry about, quote unquote, the 4 years. You get them in, let them play, because that's why a lot of these freshmen, well, I didn't play. Well, a lot of people ain't playing these freshmen because they might think, well, I'm going to redshirt them, especially in football. Basketball, you don't get redshirt as much. But especially in football, well, you're just not ready. Well, now I can play you, let you get ready. I can have you for another year. What you think, Zal?
See, the only problem, I don't like it because I don't like the idea of basically every player that comes into the system now has 5 years and they can play 5 years. It's going to create a huge, worse logjam the way it is. I like the idea of basically saying if you get hurt and if you're hurt and your injury takes you over so many games, then that gives you an extra year. That should be the only thing, and just get rid of the waivers. I can understand that. But to automatically say the moment I come in as a freshman, I get to play 5 years, right? It's not 4 out of 5. I can play 5 years. I got 5 years to play 5 years. That right there is a problem. Because when you talk about transferring, because remember, they took away redshirting now. They took away redshirting altogether. So now, guess what? You say you can't hire freshmen. Hiring freshmen, I don't necessarily think is a major problem. Because now I could be playing my freshman and setting up a classman. Well, guess what? Now you think it's a log jam with players getting to the portal. It's going to be even more crazier now. Because you can't redshirt. Because you can't. So that number is going to grow. I can assure you next year, the portal will be the highest it's ever been. I can assure you that.
Rock, I'm bringing this up. So once again, the clock starts when the competition, a 5-year, they play 5-year competition, and after they turn 19 or graduate high school, whichever comes first.
And so see, here's the thing. Go ahead. I'm because y'all, somebody put it up. It's true. It starts at 19. So because we gotta give the example, Mississippi.
No, it doesn't start. No, that's not true. It starts because you could be 18.
Well, it starts because you graduate early. It starts the moment if you enroll early. You're right. It starts then. But what I was about to say is that you can actually go JUCO. That's what I'm going to get to. I mentioned Mississippi. You go JUCO. Say you play 2 full years. Now you go to that 4-year school. You got 3 years of eligibility to play.
Right. Based off of this. Correct.
So now wait. So watch this. So now where you think a lot of high school talent going to be going? It's not going to be going to the FBS schools. You're going to have a lot of people going to HBCUs, JUCO.
That's what I'm talking about. See, that's what I'm saying. I think, listen, man, I think the goal in the hills with these high school kids. I think that these kids, high school, the level of talent that we're going to be able to get now, because like you said, big boys they're still going to run the portal. They're still going to look. And again, I don't know why people act like, first of all, to become a sophomore, you got to become a freshman. So these kids were freshmen somewhere. Somebody gave them a scholarship to start off somewhere. So again, I don't know why people just automatically think you go from 18, all of a sudden you're 22 years old. That's not how that works. So they had to start as freshmen anyway. My point is that now I can go to a freshman, recruit them, get a higher level guy that he would have went to, let's say a mid-major, right? I ain't talking about the Georgia, because the 5-stars always going to go to the top schools. But I'm talking about that good 3-star, right? Maybe I got a chance of getting him because now he can come play with us automatic. Because the mid-major's trying to get a kid out the portal. Well, we don't want Zoe Phillips at 6'4", 260. I tell you what, Jack State FAMU take you at 6'4", 260. Put some weight on you, but guess what? You right here making plays and you playing. And I'd rather have a Zoe Phillips at Callaway High School that was all city, that had 12 sacks, than a guy that left Georgia and ain't played for 3 years. What do you think about that?
Only thing though, my thing is you gotta remember, it sounds good. It only sounds good if you got them for more than 2 years. Right now, you're gonna have them for a 2-year rental, if that.
Well, that's what we are now anyway.
No, I mean, yes and no. Not really.
Okay, let me tell you why this.
Not really.
Okay. Well, hold on. I'm gonna ask you a question. You all were really worried about Lockhart and him playing and burning his year because they really wanted to redshirt him. That was no secret. Now you guys didn't have to worry about that. Now you didn't have to put that little white boy in when you know you should have never played him and should have won. Y'all played that white boy in that Grambling game because y'all worried about Lockhart's redshirt year. Correct? Tell me if I'm wrong.
No.
Lockhart, maybe he plays. Y'all don't lose that game.
Lockhart played that game.
About the red shirt. But he didn't play first. They put the white boy in first.
No.
And the reason why they put the white boy in because they were worried about Lockhart's red shirt.
Not really. Not really.
Oh, you're not gonna tell me that they thought, well, okay, we ain't about to do
no. Oh, I can tell you, but not really. They weren't really worried about burning his. I'm just telling you, not really, not for that game.
Okay, all right. Well, let's just.
I'm telling you, not really.
Well, let's say this: no matter what, if they played him, the option to redshirt was out the door. Now, if they were not going to or not worried about it, that's fine. But the bottom line was they wasn't playing him and they had out. Now they don't have to worry about that.
Well, see, here's the thing. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, the thing was, yeah, that's right, because the Grambling game would have been the 4th game he played in.
Right.
But that wasn't. That would. I'll tell you. But that wasn't.
I get it. But just look at the premise. Of what I'm saying. If that, regardless, if there were other factors, that factor wouldn't have been on the table. That's my point. That wouldn't have been a factor. You could have played if you didn't want to play him, not play him. You wanted to play stuff because whatever. But the bottom line is you didn't have to start counting games, saying, "Oh, whatever." And then of course, it ended up you had to play him anyway because Jacoby got hurt. So, I think once again, how's this going to work out with the high school kids? How's this going to work out with the portal? You got 5. Is this going to now? I sent you something Muffin McGraw said. She said this is going to have, and maybe I'll pull that up while we're talking. And again, Muffin McGraw shot her Notre Dame national championship coach who retired. She said this is going to be the opposite. You're going to have people. I guess I will pull this up because I guess this is an interesting perspective. Where is this at? This is Muffin McGraw and what she said, and this might give a little bit of information on this because she said this is what the problem is going to cause, and I won't see because this is Maverick. I should have pulled this up. So this is her, and I'm just going. She said, giving college athletes 5 years of eligibility will only exacerbate the transfer portal NIL. If it passes, kids could be playing for 4 or 5 different schools. Graduation rates dropping are already a concern. If they graduate, they will use the 5th year to collect a paycheck and sign up for class they will never attend. If the only reason we are looking at this is to lighten the load of the NCAA staff who process waivers, then surely there's another solution that doesn't negatively impact coaches by giving players more opportunity to transfer. The goal used to be getting a degree and learn some valuable life lessons along the way. Recruiting is no longer about where I can get the best education, the best fit, or how my degree will help me get a good job. Now it's a transaction. Now it's agents, recruits saying, just get me to the point. Don't waste my time talking about academics. Just tell me how much you can pay me. College athletics is broke, and giving athletes 5 years of eligibility is not going to fix it. What you think about that, Zoe?
And Rocky, there are no gray shirts, no red shirts, none of that. It's over and done with. But I mean, I agree. I would agree with Coach McGraw. I do. I agree with her. You know what I'm saying? I'm pro athlete, and again, I think it should still be 4 years. I just think they should actually do away with the waivers because the thing that people have to remember is everything changed when COVID came in because COVID they gave a free year to everybody, but that also extended if you had a waiver or not. That's what actually ended up happening because we never had guys. The only players that you had stayed in that would be old back in the day before COVID was only BYU, and then because they had their Mormon missions. They were always known to have like 24, 25-year-old guys, sometimes a 26-year-old guy on that particular team. COVID threw a wrench in everything. Plus, again, they should have eliminated the waivers with COVID. They should have just said, okay, everybody get a free year, but that's it. No waivers. They will be null and void for this season. They gave everybody an olive branch with COVID and then went right back to doing the waivers. And that's the thing. So I would say just keep it at 4 years. If a player gets injured, an injury will have to sit you for a certain percentage of the season. If it takes you past a certain threshold, that's basically like you having a red shirt. It's just a medical red shirt, and that gives you another year. You see what I'm saying? But if you have an injury, and let's say you only miss 3 games, well, you can come back and play. You know what I'm saying? Because you got a 12-game season. And I do not care if that injury happened later on in the year. If you played the front half in the majority of the season, then you played the majority of the season, man. Look, injuries happen. It's football. You don't get a participation trophy in this thing. But, having it where, you do this and then you have all these freaking waivers, do away with those. No more, I agree, no more red shirting. Just have something locked down for injuries to maintain a year later on. Outside of that, man, roll them up and play ball. Like, we sit here and we try to make all these excuses and we try to give all these extensions for everything, man. At the end of the day, man, they're young adults. You're going to have some hard nose, Steve. And guess what? Injuries happen. And guess what? You can sit there and play the whole year and you can get to the first playoff game and tear your ACL up. It happens. Like, we got to stop. Oh, my God. Well, hey, it's toward the end of the year, so we're going to save you for next year. Like, it is what it is, bro. But that's my thing. But let them play for 5 years. Nah, man. I'm telling you. And you're going to see. Mark my words. Man, next year, that portal is going to be a fool.
Well, so here's the thing. Remember, it's only one portal window. They're not changing that. And that one portal window, along with that rule saying you ain't gonna do no backdoor recruiting, folks gonna think, I'm gonna tell you 2 things. You're gonna have many more fools, but you're gonna have many more wise men. Because this 1 year portal, see, what people thought, well, you know what? I'll go in there or I'll wait and I'll jump in there the second time, after spring practice. Now those people that are sitting in that portal, if they didn't get recruited, nothing they can do. You stuck. And then the guys spring practice, because you didn't get in the portal, guess what? You better work it out. Because you can't get in the portal. You're going to have to wait a whole nother year until the portal opens back up. So you can't say, I'm dropping out of school at FAMU and I'm going to go sign at Jackson State. They already told, don't even try it. And they already said, yo, school. Huh?
But you know what you can do? You know what you can do?
Pay your own way?
If you're a freshman, you can. But if you're a freshman, you can go JUCO.
Well, that's all. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the
No. But I'm saying that. But I'm saying that's a loophole. If I'm a freshman with that same thing, I can go JUCO. If I didn't play, I can go JUCO. And
so you're saying, wait a minute. All right. So let me say. So you're going to leave school and go to JUCO. But okay, so you got to stay at the JUCO and play.
But here's the thing. But you can play and get something on film instead of staying in purgatory. Because remember, your only option is to go into the portal. And it's one time to do it.
Well, that's the whole thing. These kids are going into the portal. And that's why they're in purgatory.
So here's the thing. You got two loopholes to get out of it. And I'm speaking from a freshman. Now, once you get sophomore year, it's a whole different thing. We're talking about particular things. So if you're a freshman, you can jump back. You can actually go. Excuse me. You can go JUCO, or if I'm a freshman and let's say I got paid my freshman year, but I didn't play like it or whatever the case may be, I can go pay and go somewhere else and walk home.
Let me ask the question because I want to make sure. Because again, I'm old school. Once you go to JUCO, you got to play those 2 years, correct?
No.
So you can go to JUCO 1 year and then transfer out?
Yes, you can go JUCO.
Back in the day, you couldn't do that. You had to go to 2 years of JUCO and then you could go. So you're saying
well, it was like that back in the day, but they changed it. It was outliers too, depending on where you were with grades. Because if you played that whole first year, let's say if you enrolled in summer school before that football season, you can get 2 years done quick and done before the following season. You still could have played 1 year at JUCO and got out.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, you got okay. Well, okay, but how many? Okay, so right, you would
Oh,
have to
a lot of them did, bro. A lot of them did.
So you're saying go summer, fall, spring, full on summer. See,
And you out of there.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, all football players. So, okay, we just had graduation day. Let me fill some of y'all in.
Wait a minute. So Blue said, hold on, wait a minute. Look, LSU just signed a JUCO corner who spent 1 year there. They needed him. Okay, so now he went 1 year JUCO. So Blue, let me ask you a question. And I'm curious about this. What was his classification? Was he a freshman and he's a rising sophomore at the JUCO, or was he already a JUCO? Like, well, I guess he had to be to that point, he has to be a freshman.
He was a freshman.
He had to be a freshman.
He was a freshman. You could play 1 year, but let me say this: they go year round anyway at Jackson, at all the HBCUs and all the FBS programs. They go to class year round. When they start working out,
I remember, but I'm just saying. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying back when I was coming through, Rocky went to a JUCO. You could know maybe. I thought when we were coming through,
they were doing it then too. They were doing it then too. It's just the majority of them was going for 2 years because let me tell you. So in Mississippi, for an example, let me tell you. In Mississippi, we were all sectioned out by region, right? You know how by counties, right? It's like we would have to go to Hines, right? But then they had a rule where a handful of players, they can only sign a handful of players from out of state or out of their region to come to that school. So you remember how Florida State sent all the players over to Hines? You had Alabama sending all their players, Mississippi like that. Well, a lot of times they would send a guy, and that guy would come to school just for that 1 year because they may have been something like he couldn't get in, needed to take an ACT. So what they'll do is, how you take that regular ACT that the school may give, just to get enrolled. Once you're in college, you're in college. Play that full season, and then we head you over to this 4-year school. They did that all the time. Okay. Man's loopholes to everything.
Well, I'm just one. Well, here's the thing. On Sundays, hey man, off script channel, Rocky Middle channel. Hey man, listen, you know me. I'm all about the facts, and I want to make sure because that is my big thing. Because I'm gonna say this, and people can take it. Just because you make a fancy graphic, do not make you an expert. Okay, so we're about facts over here. So if I'm saying something, I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about, or I'm going to say I don't know.
Watch this. Let me throw you another example. Since Crook is on the screen, every state is different what they do with colleges. Just like okay, when I used to live in Louisiana, Southern used to have this thing called Maymester. Right? Soon as school get out, if I remember correctly, it was like 3 weeks, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and you could take. I think it was like you could only take up to 9 hours, 6 or 9 hours in 2.5, 3 weeks. And it was called Maymester because it was like a quick little thing to get hours right before summer school.
Gotcha. Be like 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks or something like that. I know. I'm familiar with that. But they used to do that on the Gulf Coast. That's how they got a couple of guys from Miami. They had them take how the hell you got 12 hours in 4 weeks, bro? Oh, I got that camera. Well, I was down to recruit. When I was down to recruit no guy from Miami, cats was coming from them JUCOs down there from the Gulf Coast. I was like, bro, why didn't you just? I was like, wait a minute, how you gonna be on the campus? Hey man, I took that 4 week class. I was like, how the hell in 4 weeks you got 12 hours? Like, man, damn. Like, man, that is crazy. So hey, this is the thing about it, man. And all of this, the NIL, the transfer portal. And so I sent you something I can't release, but I'm gonna tell you this. Because I sent you something I said we can't talk about it. But we about to be part of something big. And when y'all see what's about to happen with NIL and something that I just got a hold of, that's gonna be a big deal there, Zone. So we gonna break some news on Sunday in a couple of weeks. Because we know something that don't nobody else know what's gonna pop with NIL. That's gonna be a really big deal. And your boy might have a little something to do with it. So we're going to talk about that. But so let's go to, hey man, your folks, we always talking about that money. So your folks over there at the Big 12 say, listen, need a little help with this change. Folks say, look, here. So this is the Big 12. The Big 12 now has access to a $30 million credit line of private capital. The conference offers also received $12.5 million in private capital. Whoever struck its long discussed private capital deal, the first such publicized conference-wide agreement in major sports. The league's presidents and chancellors ratified the 5-year agreement with capital partner Redbird last week, as well as Weatherford Capital finalized a 3-pronged package to deliver an infusion of capital of at least $12.5 million to the league office to drive commercial development and business growth, offer schools an opt-in capital credit line of $30 million each, and create a strategic business partnership that could pay off when the conference next goes to market for its media rights contract. Now, Zoe, I'm a business major. I do a lot of investing. I thought that these folks said they ain't got no money. I'm gonna tell you a secret. When a white man give you a credit line, that means he gonna get that money back. That means that he think there's money and gold in them hills. What you think about this, Zoe? And do you think this is something that HBCU should explore? Getting a line of credit. And let's go back to what they're saying that they're going to do with, which again, to drive, well, the league office got that. Let's see here. The league presidents, they say, to drive commercial development growth, that's the league office. Offer schools an opt-in capital credit of $30 million to create strategic business partnerships that could pay off. Now, what does that mean? Is that basically a strategic partnership with the players, or are they using that money to develop programs to pay the players? I got to read into more into that. So what do you think, Zoe? Should Jackson State go over there to Regions, or go over there to what's that white boy that's got that white boy over there that's got that big capital firm? People don't know that it's right there in Jackson, and go get that money?
Man, they should, but what they need is for all these business alums who are in town to actually have their businesses do these types of things. Because I can assure you, when you say Regions, I'm like, man, Regions ain't coming nowhere near West Jackson for no school. I mean, because Regions, Regions, aka deposit guarantee. Steve, you know that. You know what I'm saying? Look,
I interned in deposit guarantee. How about that?
Look, they're all about the SEC. You know, pretty much any major corporation here is going to be all about the SEC. You know, and therefore, to all of y'all who hear my voice, the SEC, when it started, its first headquarters was downtown Jackson. A lot of y'all may not know that. First SEC headquarters was downtown Jackson. So market downtown right there now for it too, man. And they love all things SEC here. So, but to answer the question, yeah, we should. Yeah, we should. We should exhaust every possibility. What's the worst they can, man, Steve? The worst they can do is give you what you're getting right now. I mean, the worst they can give you is what you got right now. So, I mean, you have not because you ask not, man. Put something together and, man, get the ball rolling with some type of entity. You know what I'm saying? And you know what? If it's not something from the city of Jackson, man, then the county. If not the county, then within the state, Steve. Or in the Southeast region. For real. You have not because you asked not. But yeah, I'm all for it. And you know what? It may not be $30 million in capital. You know what I'm saying? But damn, can we start with 10?
Well, you know what? Okay, well, I'm gonna ask you a business question. And all right, so listen here, young folks. Credit is not bad. Credit is only bad when you don't know how to manage it. It's always good to use other people's money, especially when you have money. Most rich people. So I'll give you an example, Zone. If Jackson State could get a line of credit to, let's just make it simple, to put luxury boxes in the vet, how much do you think that would pay off? If y'all could put, and I'm just making up, 30 luxury boxes in the vet. Again, might not be able to do it, but just for the sake of this argument. And I go to Jackson State and say, listen, I'm gonna give you a line of credit, 2 points on it, and it's gonna allow you to go do luxury box. Do you think that would pay off?
Hold on. I'm doing the math. So if you got $20,000 for a suite for the year,
okay,
and you talking about you got 30 of them, that's $600,000 right there.
$600,000.
That's $600,000 just off cash, just off suites.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, why not try to go for a line of credit, you know what I'm saying, or equity of $2 million? I mean, you can sit there. I mean, you could do something in regards to make sure they get paid back. But that 600,000 is coming cold hard cash every year too, on top of what you're doing on your season tickets. So, and that's not including season tickets, man. But that's funding, you know, everything else. But this is another revenue stream. And I'm gonna tell you something. If you can actually get the line, if you can,
don't run that. That's my point. And this is why I pulled this up. Credit is debt, but it's called manageable debt. Every business has that. So it's not a problem. Again, listen to what I just said. Jackson State right now, because of the state not funding them and will not give them the money, I come to them and say, hey, listen, I see an opportunity that if I give you this money, you can actually make money. So just said, you know what? And again, we know this might not be right or wrong, but for the sake of this argument, he said, I can turn that $2 million line of credit and make $600,000. When you're doing this, guys, you ain't doing this on a 5-year period. This is a 20, 30-year term that we're talking about. So again, in 10 years, so my math, that's $6 million. Is that not? Did you not make the money back?
Yep.
And pay me back?
Yep.
Let me ask you a question. Did you not? So Richard, that's what I'm saying. That's the reason why these guys in the Big Ten, like Rocky said, hey, listen, we're going to get this line of credit now because, and like they said, we're going to get another TV deal. But we can use this money right now, this cash infusion, to maybe do NIL, which helps us. Let's say NIL, and we know NIL in basketball hits the direct line because every game you win, you get a check.
Hey, scare money don't make no money, Steve.
Don't make no money.
And guess what? And it takes money to make money.
So, man, listen, man, I'm going to tell you this, man. A white boy told me this, man, and this is just true. White people walk out the door expecting success and surprised that they end up at failure. Black people walk out the door thinking failure and surprised they end up at success. Mm-hmm. And these are the things that we need to look at and understand financially why these schools are doing these things. I actually like this because I understand. I go talk business all the time. Even my business. Hey, you give me X, I can flip that into X over X amount of time. That's how that works. So, you know, I just think that really, honestly, I think that's a great idea. I think that is a really, really big deal. And once again, how can we, and again, you know, and like I said, you don't want to to Richard's point, you don't want to get too much money. But if you got something like what I just said that could turn into a revenue generator, or so even if we went big, question, how much they said before you got to get that right size thing, how much would that cost? That, what a projection to if Jack State to get a new stadium? What have you heard that might cost? If y'all built that
right now, you're talking about $80 million.
Okay, $80 million, right? Be your campus house, like I say, suites and things like that. Gonna be there 50 years. Gonna be able to charge more for tickets. Gonna be able to do concerts, all types of stuff. And then you got a new place to play.
Check your phone.
There's a reason why.
Check your phone.
There's a reason why. I'm checking it. There's a reason why these guys do that, man. So, like I said, I just think that we need to look at these other options and stuff like that. See what we got here. Oh, yeah, those are plans right there, ain't it?
That's top secret.
No, actually, I've seen this. That's what I'm saying, man. That is the plan. So yeah, I might listen to what Crook say. Fam, give me $60,000 for a car and $120 for a small house. Crook, that's what you need for a little line of credit, man. Listen, boy, you better go ahead and get that home loan. You out there working every day and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I just thought that was pretty interesting when I saw that. And you know, again, what are we gonna do? So sitting back looking at it. This is one thing I saw. I like this podcast, and this is again we'll kind of open it up. We got all these people out here, and this guy that was big on how HBCUs need to promote, and this brother had an idea, and I wanted to see what people thought about this. Man, shout out to this brother here, man. This brother I think it's Dante Kyle. He's got the grits and eggs. Partner said, I love this brother. Brother, really knowledgeable, young brother. He also got something else funny. I think I might play that to see what you think about.
Oh,
What he talk
the
about
new
his son.
stadium would actually be 80 million. It's not 25,000. It'd be around 30. The cost is not the amount that they're expecting. The cost comes from the amenities.
Okay.
Right now, they're projecting about a 30,000 seat stadium by $80 million.
All right, so we're gonna play this right now and tell me what you think. Is he on something right here? Second, make sure I get it from the beginning.
I think that if anybody listening works at HBCU, has attended HBCU, are thinking about going to HBCU, or know somebody who can make decisions at a HBCU, I think that there's a way for us to control our own narrative. I think this is a way for us, and you know, I have an idea for how y'all can control your own narratives, how y'all can market better to the young people, and how y'all can just basically like give people an insight on the experience. But it's going to take some updating to getting with the times. So we are in a creator economy right now. Everybody wants to be a creator. I think I was with Kenny Burns. Kenny Burns said somewhere around 37 to 40% of youth all now want to be content creators or in the digital media space. So you have to feed into that. That's a nice chunk of people.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? 4 out of 10 is like, that's a lot of folks that they just stepped away.
Yeah.
So I think that each HBCU administration, whoever's over budgeting, should allocate at least $10,000 per month to creative ventures for their students. Who are the top 10 creators? Who are the top 10 content creators on your campus?
Right.
You need to figure out who that is. I would say, you know, they are college students. If you pay them, let's just say $1,000.
Oh yeah.
You pay them $1,000 per month. You pay all 10 of them $1,000 per month, no matter what they following is. You know, I mean, I would say you would probably want to incentivize for kids who have a bigger following, and we'll figure out. I'm just saying, work on a sliding scale.
Right.
Let's just say we got $10,000 for 10 creators, and they could just do a day in the life on the HBCU campus. And you do that month 1, and then month 2, you pay somebody that's a streamer that got a good following, a black streamer, $10,000 to come walk on the campus and come rock out. Like, come to a step show, come to halftime at one of the football games, come to campus life and just get people to experience it. I think the thing about I Show Speed, what he did so great is he showed us the real Africa in all these different countries. He showed us what it was, not the propaganda that America would push about it being third world, not the worst parts of it. He showed the beauty of it, and he showed the progress of it. He showed the value of it. He showed they over there getting money too, while still infusing their cultural traditions. I think we do a disservice trying to put out fires and control PR when something goes viral about something negative, instead of being on top of it about showing all the positive aspects of it, and not showing the positives in a campus tour every like once or twice a year. But I think showing the positives year round. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we doing this month. Now, I think that.
What you think about that, Zone? What you think about?
Look, I like it. You know why? Because it's number one. I liken it to be, you know, logical. Honestly, you know, with the times, but also something different, man. You know what I'm saying? Because again, you know, what works, and you continue to do that, right? You know, you keep going to that well, but again, you have to be intentional on being different. And the world is changing, and who better to know that than the youth? You know what I'm saying? And the trends, for the most part, start with them. And so again, he's right on point. When you talk about 4 out of 10, that's 40%. You can talk about 40%, and you can actually reach and have the reach to get to the multitudes of the younger people. Because again, who is actually going to be enrolling in our schools, Steve? Young people. Who better to recruit than younger people? So get them through their lens. You see what I'm saying? You take what we do, but get them through their lens to get, you know, to get that on and popping. And again, I think it's ingenious, to be honest with you.
Man, you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. When I saw this, and this sounds like when I heard, all I could hear is Scott in the background talking about this all the time. The worst underutilized resource that we have is the incredible talent that we have on these campuses.
Yep.
Well, man, we was hot and heavy when I was around, and when I was actually sponsoring schools. The way I knew who to sponsor is I go on, and I go look at the dance teams, and I go see who the hottest girl on the dance team. There was one girl named, I think, Asia. She was down in Alabama State, and I think they had done a reality show. When everybody in that space, when Asia put on something, everybody else was wearing it. When Asia was talking about something, everybody was doing it. Just that level of notoriety she got being the head stingette down in Alabama State, and everybody in the whole space knew her. Everybody. They watched everything she did, what she wore, stuff like that. Even to this very day, because I'm still following her. I think she teaches dance or somewhere for some kids. Now, all of them girls are good, shout out to those girls. They got their own business now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They're doing like Miss B doing, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's what she's doing, or she's the instructor. Don't quote me on that. But I think, man, again, this goes back to about innovation. And hey, that part. This has got to go back because, man, I just think that when you got kids that are now access, because I've gone to a lot of school websites. So when you try to get information from them school websites, horrible.
Yep.
Horrible. I can't find out anything. So if I'm somebody and say, hey, you know what? And this ain't no disrespect. I'm just telling the truth. I say, hey, go to FAMU. If you go to FAMU's website, it's two-dimensional. It's not going to tell you the spirit of what Florida A&M University is.
I'm gonna tell you what else too.
Go ahead.
That I will say, I'm you Jack State, so you fan. I'm gonna tell you something, and they need to pay someone, Steve, at all the schools to maintain and provide maintenance to their website daily. That's an investment. You got to invest in yourself because, again, that's one of the main tools that's utilized to get young people to come. Or get anybody to come, and that needs to be maintained and well taken care of. They don't manage it and upkeep it enough. And I'm talking about at all of them. It needs to be maintained. Yeah, on a day-to-day basis.
This is all of that, man. It's just, I think, again, when I'm sitting up here, and again, right, wrong, indifferent. I'm not saying he's right. You don't have to agree with what he's saying is, but I think once again, the opportunity to market. It goes back to what we talk about here. I think the biggest thing that, unfortunately, and shout out to the SWAC commissioner, Charles McClellan. Charles, hey, man, listen, you from Jackson, bro. Come on the show. Sit down with your boys.
Come on, man.
You know what I'm saying? Don't act like, hey, man, we ain't got no problem over here. You from Jackson. Come on and tell people what you got going on. Let folks know how you got the way you. I know you watch the show, and I know you got people watching. Listen, man, we want you on the show, bro. You from Jackson. So come on. But my thing is, we have such a great product. And so, don't tell me that social media don't work, because I'm going to say this again early in the show. Who did the Michael movie go get? They didn't put those commercials. I didn't see no commercial on TV. Did you see the commercial on TV?
No, sir.
I saw the commercial on social media. I saw the 3 biggest bands with brands that the Michael movie. I didn't see them again. Like I said, they didn't go to the Ohio State, dotting the I, USC Trojans, the marching Chiefs from Florida State. They came to Southern, Jack State, and FAMU. So that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. Well, let me tell you something. That is not true everywhere. Because I tell you one thing, a lot of HBCUs got record enrollment. I know this for a fact because I'm in that space. So that's not always true. So I can't speak on that. Because I tell you one thing, FAMU ain't got no problem getting folks. North Carolina A&T ain't got no problem getting folks. I think Alabama A&M just had a record freshman class.
They did. Matter of fact, this fall, we have record-breaking freshman classes all across HBCUs.
Yeah. So like I said, for the 8, now I can't speak for the white folks, but for HBCUs, there's the opportunity. But I think, again, to market it, to present it, and then this goes back here. Hey, man, you got all these great people that are doing information for this. Hey, man, Commissioner, go and get that SWAC channel going, man. Great. Make, like you say it's a channel. Let's really get that thing where you got people. And again, it ain't got to be me and Zoe. Go ahead and get your folks and really create it where you got content coming out on that SWAC TV. Where, again, you can put advertisement on that. You can have your PTIs. You can get your Black Pack McAfee. You can do whatever you want to do. find you a Stephen A. Smith. You can have your first take. You can do all that. So I don't see why any of this is not within the reach and within the goal. I don't know about that, Zoe. That's why I just thought that was fascinating. And I thought that was just an opportunity for, for these guys to go. Now, Zoe, I say this for last, because we might have to get Herb to come up here and talk about this. Howard, the real HU, made a move, though, in the basketball space. And I think this is a big time move. And what am I talking about? Welcome to the Mecca. Men's basketball named John Wall, president of basketball operations. John Wall, a 5-time NBA All-Star and former standout with the Washington Wizards, has been named president of basketball operations for Howard. Head coach Kenny Blakeney announced. Wall will work alongside Blakeney. And listen now, he's president. And general manager Daniel Marks to help shape the program's strategic vision. His responsibility include roster construction, talent evaluation, player mentorship while gaining experience, revenue sharing, budget management, agent negotiation, name, image, and likeness. Known for his basketball IQ during his playing career, Wall's basketball acumen has helped him seamlessly transition into broadcasting, contributing to NBA coverage of Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen John Wall Amazon Prime, hey, bro, savant. So I think that this is a really, really big deal. Coach Kenny Blakeney's doing his thing over at Howard, got that big win. What do you think, Zoe, about John Wall being the president of basketball operations at Howard?
Man, it's huge. Believe it or not, this is a lot bigger than UNO getting Master P. I'm so serious when I say this. You're talking about a former NBA player just out the league running this program in DC where he played. And Howard is really primed to really level up, under this arrangement. And I think a lot of other HBCUs could stand to do this as well. Howard, if you really think about it, ever since they signed the 5-star player a few years back, Maker, this move keeps their name out there. You look, they've done some things since then, man. They had the home game on campus against Duke. You know what I mean? Like, they've been doing things here in the past 3 to 4 years solely in basketball that's kept their name out there, which is a good thing. But now you add John Wall, and again, he's for roster management. If he's able to, man, you're talking about really make some headway. I've always said that in basketball, we can make a great stride in basketball more so than we can in football, because basketball requires money as well. You're talking about 15 roster spots. And you also talk about having more options, more opportunities, I should say, to actually go at some of the bigger programs, and where you can really make a name for yourself with some wins and get more publicity. But I want to say this too: you don't have to have a full roster of great talent to have success in basketball, right? You need good players, obviously. You love to get great players. But, man, if you're able to get 2 really good players and get some role guys to mix with them, you can have a good team and you can make some noise. Bro, but the other thing, but the other thing, Steve, is that I've always said this. Why continue to go to a Duke? I mean, I know people are going to say, well, they're going for the money. Like, we know this. But my point is, I've always said, why continue to go to a Duke or go to a North Carolina where they're commodities? They're well known. It does a lot more for prestige and notoriety and buzz for the player if you take a school that's off the beaten path. Because, like, when you turn a name that's unfamiliar to the masses and you make it a household name, you get more from that than just going to Kentucky or going to Duke.
Let me give you a name, and I'm gonna probably have my boy come on that knows him really well, because Lamar Odom in Rhode Island when they made that run.
Exactly. I take one even better though. Remember my guy at Loyola Marymount?
Yeah.
Hey, Gather, what's the other guy? What's the other guy?
Corey Gaines.
Bo Kimball.
Bo Kimball. Yeah, and Corey Gaines. Yeah, Bo Kimball, Corey Gaines. Yep. Bo Kimball.
Hank Gathers and Bo Kimball. You see what I'm saying? And look what they did at Loyola Marymount. You know, with their high scoring offense, they will be powerhouse teams. You know what I'm saying? It resonated more when you take a team off the beaten path and have success. It doesn't ring the same when you talk about, you know, oh, I got a great player, a great player, and he ended up going to LSU, or going to, you know what I'm saying, or going to, you know, these well-known names. It's different. Can you imagine? Like, I always say this. We know how big the Fab Five was at Michigan, right? For all the reasons that they need to be big. But imagine had the Fab Five been in the HBCU.
Man, let me. Well, first,
hold on, listen. Sipping on Sundays, Mr. Campbell, Joe Philp, man, listen. You know I had to call my boy, Big Herb, to come on with me on HBCU Coach Corner, because you know it's Sipping on Sunday, because Herb get to talk over here. So Herb, come on, man. What you sipping on? Give us something to sip on about this thing with John Wall.
Man, let me tell y'all something. I'm just gonna thank you. Well, first off, thank you guys for having me on again, man. It's always a blast being on with you guys. It's big. It's big for Howard's basketball program, and it's big. It's huge in a lot of ways, starting with recruiting, number one. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anybody that's familiar with, you know, where Howard sits at, you know, in the echelon for college basketball in the DC metro area, you got some heavy hitter programs in there. You got, you know, I mean, Georgetown is a traditional power that really, you know, is, I mean, they're in a high profile conference, you know, in the Big East. You got the University of Maryland, that's in College Park, that's down the road. You know, the reality is, man, it's, you know, you're talking about a guy that, you know, in his, you know, coming up through the system, you know, the connections he has in terms of AAU basketball, the connections he has in terms of recruiting, in terms of his visibility, his name as, you know, a basketball player in that environment is huge. Okay. And you add that with the fact that Kenny Blakely is already one heck of a recruiter with his own connections. You know, anybody that's familiar with basketball in the DC metropolitan area knows the WCAC. It's arguably the best basketball conference, high school basketball conference in the country.
Now, listen. We're from down. You know, I'm originally from DC, so I tell people those that acronym for, and tell them some of the schools that you're talking about.
The Washington Catholic Athletic Conference. We're talking about schools like DeMatha, Paul VI, O'Connell,
St. Francis,
St. John's. Well, St. Francis is Baltimore Catholic, but you're talking about the same air. I mean, Carroll. I mean, the talent that has come out of that conference, whether we're talking about Lawrence Moten, whether we're talking about Kevin Durant, you know, when Montrose Christian was part of the WCAC before they left out. I mean, I could go on for the next 2 hours about the amount of talent that's come out of that one conference alone, or from DeMatha High School. They've been Morgan Wooten. They're the flagship. Bishop O'Connell. Hey, you there? Yeah, you're talking about Bishop O'Connell. You're good.
Yep.
And the fact is that him being the face of that program in basketball operations, whether people, and I had a discussion with Super Dave, who's on Twitter, who's a North Carolina A&T grad, and he's in the media space, about what that means in terms of basketball operations. His value there goes beyond that. He immediately becomes the face of that program, along with, you know, Kenny Blakely, simply because, you know, for kids in that area or in that region, they'll look at Howard University. They already know Kenny Blakely's name and his pedigree. You know, there's already a degree of visibility there. But you add John Wall to it, you're going to have kids in that area that that wouldn't ordinarily look at Howard looking at Howard. Like, kids like, Obina Casey Jr., who just went to Louisville. He's a 5-star. He made mention of this. If this had happened earlier in the recruitment, he may have been, they may have been a real player, in that recruitment. And I think in an area that is as talent laden as the DC metropolitan area is in terms of basketball, you're talking about per capita between PG County, the district, Montgomery County, all the way up to Baltimore and all the way down to Northern Virginia. You're talking about, per square acre, one of the most talent-packed basketball areas in the country, period. I'll probably put maybe the Dallas Metroplex in Houston there. I'll probably put California there. But man, it's huge. It's really big. And you already got kids on the circuit and AAU programs talking about it. So
now, Herb, I'm gonna have to throw a city out there. Come on, boy. Don't forget Atlanta, Georgia. Don't forget what Atlanta, Georgia plays.
Atlanta's solid.
Hey, listen.
Atlanta's solid.
I start naming off the people from Atlanta. If I just go JB and Ant-Man, all of a sudden we running folks right there, right off the crib.
I got a question for you, because I saw a comment earlier. I want to address this, right? From my Fab 5 comment. So I want to pose a question to both of y'all. If John Wall goes to Howard right now, year one, and let's say that he was able to sign 5 of the top 25 freshmen in this class, would they make headways?
Absolutely.
So because there was a comment saying that if the 5-5 had signed with HBCU, they would have moved the needle unless they won 2 or 3 games. I'm like, you don't understand. Basketball is not like football.
Yeah.
The mere fact that any HBCU were to sign 5 of the top 25 freshmen.
Well,
let me get you the belt.
That would make each win. It will move the needle. Trust me.
That would go beyond moving the needle.
Jawan Howard was 2 in that class. Jalen Rose was 10. Jimmy King was 25 in that class.
Let me tell you something. If that, let's say, for the sake of argument here, that scenario came about, right? And let's say, whether it's Kenny Blakely at Howard or Robert Jones at Norfolk State or Coach Wright down at Alabama State, lands, 4 stars and 5 stars and turns that program overnight into a mid-major that goes out and goes 25-5, wins a conference tournament, makes a run in the NCAA tournament. Not only does that put that program on the map, it puts whatever conference that program is in on the map. And not only does it do that, it takes a real close look at the coaches and the programs in that conference. Like, for example, I'll use the MEAC as an example, okay? The MEAC, for its size, has one of the best core coaches in all of mid-major basketball for the size of the conference. You're talking about Kenny Blakely. You're talking about Robert Jones. You're talking about Coach Martin down at South Carolina State, who was formerly at Kansas. You're talking about Turkwood Mott and that staff over at Coppin State, although they're still getting the ball rolling there. You talk about Coach Moten at North Carolina Central, who's been the face of that program. And the reality is that every single one of those coaches I mentioned is this close to having, to landing that kid that changes the program. And, you look at the recruiting job this offseason that Coach Jones has done over at Norfolk State. The kids he's pulling, the 4-star he just pulled in there, legit. And and not only are they pulling regular kids, they're pulling from the transfer portal, which is, in this day and age, I think, and this is, for high school students that are watching this show and watching what's going on in the landscape, playing at an HBCU is becoming more and more appealing every day because you're going to be looking for programs that, one, you can develop at, that you can grow, that you can develop your game at, that because you got some programs, particularly at the G4 and Power 5 level, that aren't looking for high school seniors like that anymore. They're looking for plug and play kids. They're looking for kids that, either have the talent that can go one and done, before, the money hits, or they're looking for kids that are already in the portal that have already had college basketball experience to fill a role immediately to plug and play. University of Maryland is a good example. You look at that roster, the roster, they got 1 5-star. Baba, I don't want to mess up this dude's name, but he's out of Montgomery County. He's like, top 5 recruit, right? And, he's the only high school, him and one other kid, Caden House out of Arizona, is the only high schooler, in that class. Everybody else is transfers. So, I think there's a very unique opportunity here with John being in the fold there, not only just for Howard, but it puts a showcase on the rest of that conference, because the level of basketball in the conference is great, just like the level of basketball in the SWAC is good, is really, really good, and I think having a profile, having a high profile hire like that, and you bring in, in our hypothetical, we bring a recruiting class that's a top 25 recruiting class, and they go out there and put in work. That's not only going to, only raise the profile of the program that those kids went to. It's going to raise the program, the profile of the conference, and it's going to give visibility to the other programs, and more importantly, it's going to raise recruiting all the way around, because it'll give opportunity for those programs to be seen. So whoever said that, that it wouldn't move the needle, and I don't think you understand how kids operate, because kids see, that they can chart their own way. And now I'll give you a recent HBCU example. Virginia State, Marcus Jackson, 4-star, borderline 5-star talent, turned down the University of Maryland, turned down Georgetown, turned down some SEC team, went to Virginia State, and he's charting his own path there. And he's about to turn into, he's about to really inherit a role there that is going to be remarkable for him, going there as a borderline 5-star talent. So, I want people to, that are listening to this, particularly kids that watch the show, man, because, if you can play, you can play, and you're going to be able to get seen wherever you play at. And why not do it at HBCU?
What you guys know?
So I bring it up because, for example, not only would it move the needle, but it could change the narrative overnight. For an example, just last week, I can't say the name of the podcast, I don't know, but maybe some of you guys do. I just drew a blank, man. My guy that played for the Atlanta Hawks, Jeff Teague.
Okay, yeah,
Jeff Teague. Yep. Jeff Teague in their podcast, right? And they were literally, he was making a bad observation about the SWAC. Just last week, he made a joke. He was saying about how comparing Power 4 programs, saying where he went, they get protein shakes like 4 to 5 every day. And he was like, if you go to a SWAC school, and he said Alabama A&M, you probably get 1 shake, 1 shake a week or something like that, right? Man, he don't know, he's wrong. But my thing is, but here's the thing, it's a narrative, because watch this. If you were able to get a good significant amount of signees, and then you generate buzz going to your school, they have some wins, then you can have that same guy, Jeff Teague, on his platform saying other positive stuff, because that actually feeds even more into the narrative, because all it does is gain legs. And at that point, more and more people attach themselves to it. Now it become a cool thing to do. And now you're like, okay, because all it takes is that one class, have success, and then guess what? Now other kids are going to go to that same program because they talked about doing it, and we want to add to it. Then if it gets buzz in these different platforms, it's no different than when Prime came to Jack State. Because even those same people, they were, jumping up in arms about it, nationally, right? Who don't even pay attention to HBCU schools, right? They attached to it. And then like we ended up going to Colorado, they went to Colorado with them, right? Same thing now if you get, John Wall, and again, if he has some success on the basketball front, it could be a little bit more tangible, because again, basketball is different, right? It's all about the players, even in college. You know, again, you get names go to your program. Well, guess what? Those names have faces. You can market that. You can brand those, and you can market to those. And if they have success, the school is attached for the ride. I'm telling you. And if they do it, it could be beneficial. Club 520. That's it. Appreciate it, Hutch.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think, going to add a little bit to that is, the reality is that in this day and age of college basketball and revenue athletics, it doesn't, particularly in basketball, it doesn't take a lot. It takes, a good hire, which is one of the reasons why I think a lot of people, saw it in real time at Tennessee State this year, after Nolan Smith was hired.
Good example.
What he did in a short period of time in terms of, even though I'll say this with the caveat that Penny Collins didn't leave that cupboard bare. Penny Collins did an excellent job in terms of maintaining that program and recruiting at a level to compete in the OVC. But the job that Nolan did in his first year, in terms of who he brought in, the talent that he brought in. I mean, the dude brought in a most outstanding player from the Big East tournament like the year or two before, in Dante Harris. That dude was practically the catalyst for that squad, and Tennessee State had one of their best seasons in recent memory, I think when people look at a hire like this, besides the star factor, let's just remove the fact that, he played in the NBA and, he played in Kentucky. His roots are in North Carolina, but in that city, in that area. If you're a Washington Wizards fan or Washington Bullets fan, as I am, and you followed the team and you know how much John Wall meant to DC area basketball fans, that dude is, he's got a lifetime pass. He's an honorary Washingtonian, so.
Hey, now let me throw my joke up here because I'm old school. See, shout out to Mark Barnes. He also made Mark Barnes a millionaire with Club Dream, Abdul H2O, because that boy used to do it up in them clubs. That boy was legendary in them clubs in DC. I know this for a fact. That goes without saying. But I think that's the biggest. I think for Howard as a program, that's one of the biggest. That's one of the biggest draws and one of the biggest opportunities they have to kind of leverage the marketing that comes out of this to their advantage, not just in terms of the resources that he can bring to bear, for that program, because his connections can bring additional resources that we're not even talking about yet. His connections at the University of Kentucky, for example. You never know how that works. You might have a kid that was recruited by Kentucky, that doesn't get to play, and somebody gives a call to John. It's like, hey, John, I got a kid that wants to come over. You're going to get him in front of Kenny Blakeney. Next thing you know, that kid that played for Kentucky might be, on that roster at Howard. You know what I'm saying? Or, for AAU purposes, there are a whole bunch of really, high profile AAU programs in the DC metro area, Team Takeover, for example, DC Premier, Team Thrill, Mello's AAU squad up in Baltimore. The reality is that having a face like that in your program gives you instant visibility in those spaces, period. Now, Herb, let me tell you, I'm glad you're here because that leads into the next thing. Something big just happened that the NCAA announced. We are now going to go from a 64 team field to 76. 76. Yeah. And we're going to, so shout out to my folks out there, HBCU Sport. We're going to bring us a couple of articles I want to bring up because want to talk about something they point out. So there you go. The NCAA is expected. There we go. Let me make sure to make that a little bit bigger so everybody can see it as we do for the folks in the back. The NCAA is expected to finalize expansion of men's and women's tournament of 76 teams. But the question is, what does that mean for HBCUs? According to this article, likely nothing will change despite the present March Madness runs of Howard Prairie View on the men's side and Southern women. MEAC and SWAC will still be one big leagues unless the strength of those conferences improve. That's because the entire motivation of the tournament expansion is to get more powerful and select high mid-majors in. You know, bubble teams like Auburn, Oklahoma, Indiana, which all had losing conference records in the SEC and the Big Ten, respectively. Under the new format, they would all have been included. For example, SWAC's men's regular season champion, Bethune-Cookman, or women's champion A&M would not have been. Why the extra spots may not help. The biggest issue is selection bias. Multiple reports say the expansion would create a large opportunities and move some teams into a larger opening round setup with tends to favor power count. Now, I want to talk. Hold on one second. I want to show you guys something because this was pretty interesting. What I saw here of how this would work. Because this is like, Mr. Cameron, how's that going to work? Well, this is how the folks say it's going to work. Let's pull this up real quick. So, key features to a 76-team bracket. Expanded opening rounds. The current first 4 would expand to a first 12, or similar, with 24 teams playing in 12 games on Tuesday and Wednesday. Auto qualification. 52 teams instead of 64 will bypass the opening game and start in the first round proper Thursday and Friday. The bracket flow. Teams ranked 1 through 52 will start in the standard bracket, while teams 52 through 76 consider lower seeded teams or additional at-large bids playing to the 11 and 16 lines. More playing games. The format likely creates several playing games involving number 11, 12, 15, and 16. Tournament logistics. Opening games will probably help with multiple sites. Potential impact. Increased access. Dilution concern. Of course, we talked about the water around. And mid-major challenges. Now, here's the thing. Potential. This is talking about 26. 11 seeds could have been NC State, Texas, SMU, Auburn. Compete for 4 11 seeds, 12 seed games. San Diego State, Cincinnati might have played. But here was the thing that I saw interesting right here. The winners and losers according to the man. Who's going to win on this? Close that out.
Man, yeah, I got my own thoughts.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, hold on. So this is who the man said the winners and losers. Power conference gain more power. ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC staunchly favored expansion. Now they have it. Data suggests the last several years, those conferences and the Big East will benefit the most, soaking up to 8 additional spots in the field. When applying the 7-16 format, 5 high major leagues would have likely received a 6 additional bid. Losers. Life gets tough for the mid-majors. Where the little guys. The new format, the 12 worst seeded automatic qualifier will be sliding in the opening round and forced to play their way into the round of 64. That means the first round will feature significantly fewer low major programs in the past years. Additionally, there's a natural seeding depression that will come as a result of changing the format. For example, if the 70-16 format will apply to 2026, all of the 12 seeds in the 2026 bracket would have likely been number 13 seeds. All of the 13 seeds would have been 14 seeds. All the 14 seeds, et cetera, et cetera. Not only will many of the little guys be required to play in the preliminary rounds, they will also have a less favorable seedings, which could mean their first round opponents will be better if they're fortunate enough to advance out of the opening matchup. Winners, top mid-major conference could benefit. While the high major conferences are likely to be the biggest beneficiary, the upside to expansion for quality mid-major league like Atlantic 10, Missouri Valley, and the reformed Pac-12. If they just get 1 or 2, 3 additional 8 bids per year to go around, there's more bites of the apple before. And here it is. Losers, casual college basketball fans. Filling out a bracket is an annual write a passage, and they basically have a problem filling out their brackets. 76 teams. Y'all know we wasn't going to get no extra. They already told you Bethune-Cookman wasn't going to go in.
Listen.
What do you guys think?
Man, the NCAA knows how to F up a completely good thing, man, don't they? And that's what it amounts to, is greed. And the bottom line, I mean, part of what makes the NCAA tournament the magical event that it is that 64-team threshold. You know, the playing game was a borderline stretch for it.
It was perfect.
That, you know, it was the right balance of teams, you know, of lower seeded mid-major teams I got in that you didn't get a chance to see in matchups that are unique because, one, you don't see those teams every year. You know, you see them teams in a one-game circumstance where, you know, you're going to have to adapt to something new on the court. You're going to have to actually coach and execute. You know, this is a complete cluster F, completely, in my opinion. You know, I as a college basketball fan and as somebody that follows the game really closely, you know, outside of money, you know, and high major conferences putting pressure on the NCAA to say, hey, look, we can make more money, we can get more teams in. You know, it's a disaster. And I mean, I say that because it takes all the impetus of what you do in the regular season, it lessens it. You know, lessens what it means to go through conference tournaments and get that automatic bid. You know, if you're a mid-major, you go through the conference tournament to get the auto bid at the OVC, on the OVC or the MVC or the Patriot or the SWAC or the Southern or the Coastal Athletic Conference. You know, all of those are one bid leagues now, no question, point blank. There will be no, you know, there's no Cinderella coming out of that. And the odds of somebody pulling a 16 versus a 1 like UMBC did, or what Robert Fairleigh Dickinson did, you know, that becomes almost impossible to do. And that is, that's what made the tournament the tournament. That's what made it the spectacle that it is. It's seeing, you know, what the underdog can do on the biggest stage against programs that already have the spotlight, already have the resources, already have the visibility. You know, that's what made the games compelling. And watering it down like this, I mean, what's the point?
So what you got? 76 teams. We're gonna get Bethune-Cookman in and Southern, Bethune-Cookman and Prairie View.
No, I don't like it. 64 was perfect. I mean, I wasn't really a fan of the play-in game, but the play-in game is okay because it gives opportunities.
Man,
what's good for the money, Herb? We can't deny.
The play-in game is good because, you know, it's 16 seeds for the most part battling out for that spot. So I can get it in that, and you know, so under the construct that it is. But honestly, I could do without it.
Yeah,
I mean, call me an old homer, but 64 was perfect. You know what I'm saying? And it just feels like I'm not one of those people who's against change. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to sound like an old guy, get off my lawn, but some things are traditions for a reason, and some things don't need to be changed. It's not changing the competitive banter or making it better in that regard. But 64 was perfect. It really, really was.
Look, bro, and Rocky said, "Bro, is great for competition." No, it ain't, man. And I'm gonna tell you why. All right, one, you're already diluting a tournament field with mediocre ass teams that, you know, couldn't finish the upper half of their conferences. You know, we already have to worry about, you know, that type of bias with mid majors that have been busting their ass the entire year. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. Navy out of the Patriot League last year. Navy had 28 wins last year, man. 28 wins, you know, versus 5 losses, and they didn't make the tournament. Okay. Now, you know, and we kind of saw it in the first 4 where we saw, you know, 2 really compelling games between the mid-major programs, between Howard and their opponent and the SWAC opponent, that were really, really compelling games. We saw 1 stinker between 2 11 seeds from high major conferences that probably didn't deserve to be there, you know, only to, you know, turn around and get blown out in the first round, you know, with their matchups. You know, and it's,
guess what happened? You're going to get more of those exact matchups.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just about to say, you know,
more of exactly brand teams. That right there, that those 11 seeds should have been nowhere near that, should have been in there, and you're going to get these bad matchups that they're going to play. And my thing is the compelling part, because to Zoe's point about the low majors, they're more closely aligned where you're going to get a good game. But when you got a team, like you say, can't even have a winning record in their conference, and you think that they're going to be any better. That's just gonna be bad basketball.
The thing to hear you say more brand team, what difference does it make for the brand to be there, but they're under 500 in their conference? Like, so the SEC has grown by adding Oklahoma and Texas, as we all know. But then why does there need to be 14 teams from the SEC in the NCAA tournament? There doesn't need to be. Exactly. And that's literally what's going to happen. The Big Ten is going to have more at-large teams. The SEC is going to have more. You're going to have more at-large teams from the Power Four conferences, and they thoroughly do not need to be there. You need to have the same energy if you are 500 in your conference, because remember, it's an at-large bid. It's not like they won a conference. You have to justify being there. No 500 team on the 500 level, on the Power Four level, need to be in the NCAA tournament. It's not the same thing because it's a different criteria for them being there than a conference champion from a mid-major. It's a total different construct. I know when I say that, some people will say, well, if you take that 500 team and put them in your conference, that's not necessarily the case because you haven't seen it, so you cannot say that, because that's why you will have the same team, end up upsetting some of those teams within the tournament. But my thing is, I would like to see, for example, the West Coast Conference. Typically now they're getting 2 teams in on a consistent basis with getting in St. Francis and Mount St. Mary's and Gonzaga. But then sometimes they get 3 teams in. And my thing is, I would like to see now a changing of the guard with some of the mid-majors being able to get not being a one big league, but maybe being a one big conference champion and then getting one at large in. You know what I'm saying? To offset some of these other tournaments they have toward the end of the year. But my thing is just sinners, and that's why I don't like the adding of the number, because all you're doing is just getting a brand name in just for the sake of saying you have a brand name in. I don't give a damn about St. Richard State and they 500 in the SEC or Ole Miss for that matter. They do not need to be there.
Yeah, and that's what the NIT and all the ancillary tournaments are for those squads. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that irks me about that mentality is that the brand name doesn't mean a damn thing if the quality of basketball sucks. That's what makes the tournament. Let's take Auburn from last year. Auburn was awful, dude. Let's be real. Horrible. They sucked. Auburn deserved exactly where they needed to be at to work on their game in the NIT. Right. And the reality is that whether that was that you could have that neutral game in the NIT, BCU and Auburn, not at the NCAA tournament because they didn't earn it. And the thing that irks me about that is that the expansion of the tournament, all that does is give schools that have bigger budgets, that have bigger influence, that have bigger pull to get their squads that that at large bid over squads that have really busted their ass and played quality basketball, that may have been a mid-major from the NWC or the WCC I'll tell you right now, that expansion is going to negatively affect those higher mid-major conferences. Those 2 big conferences, like the WCC, they maybe become 1.5 bid or 1 bid, depending on how they schedule, and that's the other thing. We're already at a disadvantage of HBCU conferences because of how we have to schedule. Okay. And essentially, unless you're scheduling regionally against squads that can really increase your RPI and increase your net, as a conference, you're always going to be in the lower percentile of the NCAA in terms of your conference strength. And with the expansion of the tournament, it's going to screw, you're never going to have a chance to get in a large bid. It's going to be practically impossible. So, as it relates to HBC and particularly for lower and mid-major conferences like the SWAC, the MEAC, the Patriot League, and those leagues that are considered low mid-major conferences, it sucks because it completely negates what you do in the regular season. And in the case of the SWAC and the MEAC, to a lesser extent, the MEAC, because they schedule a little bit differently than most of the SWAC schools do. The art of the money game that we're so fond of doing in the SWAC every year, being on the road for 12, 13, 14 straight games, and taking L's all the way up until conference play. I mean, that's not going to change, but at the same time, at the very least, with the way the 64-bid team, 64-bid structure was, if you increase your conference visibility, there's a chance that you can increase your, increase your ranking in the pecking order in terms of conferences. You can't do that here. You just can't.
But Rocky, this is what I'm gonna say. I don't think anybody's gonna disagree, because listen, the bottom line is, and this is just Herb's been on here, me and Herb have broke this thing down. You got to do competitive scheduling. You got to recruit. That's why we made a big deal about John Wall and Howard. You can get, like I said, if you can competitively recruit and you can have people come in and build up programs, you can get 2 teams. But again, you got to be able to recruit basketball players. Rocky, what you got?
Well, I just wanted to kind of push back on Herb about the, I understand you're a basketball purist, and I think there's a lot of nostalgia tied up into the NCAA tournament. But I think but I think the sheer volume of opportunity that it gives players to play on the stage is good for the game of basketball. In essence, I know what you're saying, that it's less qualified teams get an opportunity to play in the tournament. But at the same time, I think you get compelling matchups against name brand teams, against those mid majors and low majors, and I think that can provide for an extremely competitive game. Just think if in North Carolina or Dayton, Bethune-Cookman is playing Auburn, and they got Auburn down going into the fourth quarter, going into the second half. That's a compelling victory, and even if Bethune-Cookman ends up getting beat in the next round, that's a feather in the SWAC's cap that they cannot manufacture in the regular season, because Auburn is not going to play them in a home and home or.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, let me
go ahead.
Her. Hold on. Let me because
go ahead. I'll get to you after that.
Yeah, the problem, Rocky, the problem is what's going to be, which the article point out. We're always, to your point, we're always going to be a 1B league. So at best, we're going to be a 15 seed. They're not going to be a 15 seed. They're always going to be in that 11 seed slot. So we will never play them in that. See, that's the whole point. We'll never get the opportunity you're talking about, because they just said it. Everybody's going to get pushed down even one more slot now. So no matter what, we'll never. This is sitting for 11 seeds, 11 and 12 seeds now. So that's what. So it'll be a 12 versus a 12, or a 11 versus 11. That's not going to happen. So we'll never get this matchup that you're talking about anyway.
So you think they're gonna? Okay, let me just by your logic, you think that they're gonna have Auburn against NC State?
Yeah.
On the 11 line, and then have Prairie View. Hold up, and then Prairie View play Lehigh on the 16 line.
Yeah,
that's exactly what they're going to do.
That's stupid.
Let me answer this, because Rocky, this has gone on ever since the playing game became a thing. Okay, and it's happened without fail. The 16 has faced the 16, or the low mid major has faced the low mid major, and the 2 11 seeds, the 2 quote unquote brand teams, whomever they.
Well, I understood why they did it. They had to have a marquee game.
But they look, man. Let me tell you something. The marquee game, as it relates to the NCAA tournament, doesn't mean a hill of beans. The quality of basketball is what makes the tournament compelling. Yeah, people are going to look at, people were saying it last year with the 2 11 seed games they had. Those games sucked, except for the Texas game got good.
I was about to say the Texas game was a tremendous game.
The Texas game got good in the last 5 minutes. Let's be real, okay? And that's no disrespect to Texas and the run they made in the tournament, but the reality is that you had squads that earned their way there, that play a hell of a level of quality basketball. And that's what the tournament has really made their bones on.
If they're not talented enough, Herb, what difference does it make the quality of basketball?
Dude, those teams weren't talented enough during the season to make the tournament. They shouldn't be there.
Bro, but they were, bro.
Rocky, you missing what I'm saying. Okay. Let's just put a blindfold on and remove the brand name for a minute. Okay. You're looking at somebody that's less than 500 in their conference. Okay. Whether they've gotten television visibility during the regular season or not, when it comes to postseason play, that same squad may have laid a stinker in the first round of their conference tournament. In the meantime, you've got, a mid-major, and this is not to say this applies to every mid-major conference or every mid-major, because you got some lower mid-major conferences that are always going to be one-bid leagues. We get that. But part of the appeal of going into the NCAA tournament is to see that type of matchup, to see that mid-major that has worked their way through the season, particularly the mid-majors that have really laid it down and really just did the thing like High Point did this year, for example. You see that difference of gameplay, that difference in style, that difference between what you see ordinarily on a daily basis out of the Big Ten or the ACC or the SEC, and see how those teams fare in a one-game, one-off advantage. And you take that, when you dilute the pool the way you're diluting it, you take that away completely, because regardless of who's in the 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 line, they're going to have to play like lines in order to move up, in order to even get to that point.
Herb, let me show, because I pulled this up. So this is right here. This is what would have happened. So they broke down what our 76 team bracket would have looked like. So this is what would have happened right here. So you got right here. You see how, and I guess this must have been last year. So you see how they got West Virginia, UC Irvine, Dayton, North Texas, Indiana. See, it would have been, that's who would have been playing, Rocky. And then down here, the 15s would have been the Troys, Montana, Wofford, Grand Canyon. Then where's the 16s at? Where the 16s at? 13s, 15s. Oh, they don't have the 16s on. I guess where's the 16s at? I see the 14. I thought I saw 16s on here. Well, the bottom line is, and see, this is what I was looking for, the 10 line. Well, this is the 16s over here, 16s. Alabama State, St. Francis, American, Mount St. Mary's. No, so we're still going to play on our level. That's not going to get the matchup you're talking about. They're showing what it would have looked like. So you're not going to get that matchup.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I'm not saying that, not having marquee games or marquee brands is the thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the whole premise of the NCAA tournament is, teams that earn that right through the season or earn that right, through their play in the conference tournament, earn their spot there. That's just like, if Auburn would have made the first four this year, people would have pitched a fit because they didn't need to be there. That's why the bubble exists. That's one of the more compelling storyline narratives that you see every season is who's on the bubble, who's on the right side of the bubble, who's on the wrong side of the bubble. You see that leading up to the tournament. And it's not necessarily just, mid-majors that benefit. It incentivizes being able to execute during the course of the regular season.
One of the things I miss about basketball more so than anything else about college basketball is not, I think the tournament is still a tournament. I still enjoy the tournament a great deal. The tournament is an awesome exhibition of competition. And for me, whether it's 64 teams or 72 teams, it's still a great exhibition of competition. What I miss in college basketball is those marquee matchups that we used to get in November and December that we don't get anymore because teams are overly concerned about their schedule. And hopefully that's what happens now, is that we get more of those marquee matchups in the preseason.
You just had Michigan and Duke playing DC. You have the tournament that's always in
New York
City.
Bro, I'm talking about we used to get. Come on now, y'all know we used to get these games. We could get Kentucky and Duke, and we could get Kentucky and North Carolina. You know, we used to have these games all the time.
Kansas and Kentucky this year.
Dude, what are you talking about?
Carolina literally played what you just said. They played Kansas, beat Kansas, played Kentucky, beat Kentucky. You had Michigan and Duke playing DC. I'm just telling you, bro.
Yeah, this happens every year.
No. Yeah, there's not near as many. Matter of fact, one of the things that probably has affected those matchups is because a lot of those teams are in the same conference now. When we used to get that Louisville, Georgia Tech game and all those games we used to get, now they're in the same conference with one another. So again, I get what you guys are saying. I'm saying it seemed like we used to have when I tune in to basketball in November now, I'm getting Duke against a mid-major way more than I'm getting Duke against another name brand school. Period, point blank.
Let me just say this. I don't mean to cut you off, Mr. Campbell, but that's when you watch early season tournaments like the Maui, I mean, like the Big Ten, ACC.
Oh, the Maui is not what it used to be, and neither is the Bahamas shootout.
Come on, man. Look, I get what you're trying to say, but those squads have to schedule. They schedule like that. I don't know. I mean, I've seen plenty of big games this past season, early in the season, and I mean, the Duke and Arizona's, UConn's. I mean, those games happen, before December, and then that December stretch going into bowl games, and some of these classics that are right there at the bowl games are marquee matchups. Now, that being said, that doesn't change the fact that on paper those are marquee matchups, and those teams still have to actually put together a really good basketball product, put out the floor. But it's not like Duke is just scheduling one high profile game and then a whole bunch of mid majors. They ain't doing that.
Like Baylor this year, they had one quality I think they played Louisville, but I remember years where they would play Louisville, Duke, LSU, several different schools in an out of conference schedule. But those schools don't do it anymore because, again, they don't want to get dinged for if they happen to lose a very competitive game against a really good team.
In basketball, you get dinged. That's why you have no. See, I won't say Rocky. See, okay, and Herb and I gonna break this down. No, wait, let me rock. Basketball has quad wins. That's how you get the tournament. So even if you lose a quad 1 game, you get a point compared to getting a quad 4 win. Basketball works like that. So they always are going to play. Like this literally happened in Atlanta during the Celebration Bowl. Kentucky and North Carolina earned, and I was going to go to this game, but the Celebration Bowl ran too late. Kentucky played St. John's. We all know about what St. John's did. Carolina played Ohio State. That happened in Atlanta. So basketball, you're not going to have that problem because that's why those bubble teams, because that's why Carolina was trending until they started winning late. They didn't have enough quad 1 wins.
We used to get that out of conference Michigan Duke game every year. Every year we used to get that game.
Hey, as a side note, Hutch sent something in the comments that I want to address, and he's like, he was saying that I'm making a case why, that HBCU. Yeah. This is Hutch. I want to explain something to you, man. Okay, anything having to deal with the NCAA tournament, conference strength, RPI, the net, has everything to do with scheduling, regardless of whether you're at HBCU or not, whether you're a low mid major or not. If you don't schedule in a way that one is going to raise your conference profile, raise your your competitive profile in the RPI, you're not going to move the needle for anybody. And as it relates to the SWAT, you know, how we've had to schedule, you know, we've had to weigh whether or not we can, you know, we want to draw income with our schedule or actually schedule in a way that's going to be conducive to building a program through the course of the season to be able to execute down the stretch and have a high conference profile. In other words, you know, you might have a Jackson State scheduling 17 games on the road, you know, for cash money and going, you know, 0-1-17 before they get the conference play. Those are the things that F up, you know, our conference profile in terms of collective, because you got a lot of programs in the conference doing the same thing.
Let me ask something to that. Let me add something to that. Another thing too is understand how the tournament works. These conferences, the SWAC and the MEAC, have an automatic bid. So that champion, no matter how the tournament is the champion, not the regular.
They get a chance to go.
When you come in as a champion, it's totally different when you're Auburn that lost in the first round that's under 500 in the SEC. You don't get the same respect. Now, is Auburn a better team when they win the SWAC? Of course. But the point of it is because you didn't get special treatment. You actually won based off the rules. You won your bid. That's why it's not the same what Herb is talking about. So that's why I wanted to clear that up, is because we're not talking about the whole field being bids where, you know, you just get in because I'm looking at your profile. Every team can get in if they win their conference tournament. That's a guaranteed fact. So if you win your tournament, you're in.
Well,
nobody's going to complain about that.
Hutch, I didn't claim that Texas was playing bad basketball. I said those first 4 games, you had 11 seeds that played some ass basketball, not Texas. Texas made a run, you know, and to be quite honest with you, that, you know, until the last 5 minutes of that game in the first 4, when Texas, you know, kind of found their shooting, you know, found their feet and started playing, you know, that game was kind of ass too. And that's just the reality of it. That doesn't say that, you know, well, Texas was a bad team. You know, part of what the tournament is, it's about how you execute that night, every night on the floor.
I think historically, those 10 and 11 matchups have been really good games historically. I want to say VCU had an overtime game one year. And I mean, like, historically, those have been really good matchups. They've done a real good job.
But those are the teams that deserve to be in the tournament, all right? That's the point. They actually deserved. Now you're adding 4 other teams that did not deserve to be in the tournament. Their resume does not speak to them. That's why these teams got in. That's the problem, what we're talking about. Is that team would not have gotten in. So you're talking about a compelling matchup on a team that's not good. Those other teams, again, were part of the 68.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be real here. You know, they increasing. You know, and just by the Rocky, I'm gonna just take the logic that you've kind of exhibited here in terms of brands here, right? Okay, let's say that Auburn team goes 15-17 in this new format, and because they're Auburn, they get into the tournament over a mid-major that goes 25-7. I mean, come on, man. That to me.
I think even if you look at Auburn's record, I think Auburn was like 22-13 or something like that. They weren't that bad. Like weren't.
I'm using that as a hypothetical. Okay, what I'm saying is that in conference, according to how, you know, the RPI and that stuff plays out. And I think Auburn was, you know, had a losing record. I'm not sure if they had a losing record in the conference or not. The metrics didn't, you know, add up to them earning a slot in the NCAA tournament, and they didn't.
I think them and Texas were pretty much the same team if you on paper.
Honestly, I don't think so.
I think on paper they were the same team.
I don't agree.
This is okay. So this is to this point. Like I say, facts matter. Now, I want you to look at this. You guys can see this, right? Of course, Florida won the regular season. They were 16-2 in the conference, 27-8. Arkansas, who actually won the tournament, 13-5 in the conference, 28-9. Alabama, 13-5, 25-10. Vanderbilt, 11-7, 27-9. Tennessee 11-7, 25-12. Texas A&M 11-7, 22-12. Georgia 10-8, 22-11. They made the tournament. Kentucky made the tournament. 10-8, 22-14. Missouri 10-8, 22-13. And this is where the line cut off right here. Texas was 9-9, 21-15, and Auburn was 7-11 and 22-16. There is no way that team should have made the tournament.
Yeah, and I would agree. That's just
there's no way that team to her. You're not going to tell me that this team at 7-11, 38% winning percentage, 22-16 should have went to the tournament.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Mr. Campbell's saying,
it's just not your tournament record, like either. So I just want you to know that it's the out of conference record as well.
Well, you might have a look at the out of conference record.
I can figure that out real quick because let's see here.
Dude,
they lost 11, so that means out of conference they won 5. Let's see here. So they went, what was that? 16, 14, 15. So they went 15-5 outside the conference. 15-5. That's what they did.
And those but look at what those wins were in terms of quads. You got to remember we're evaluating quad wins. Quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4. If the majority of those wins are quad 3 and quad 4, and you ain't got no quad 2 or quad 1 wins, or better yet, you have quad 4, you got quad 4 and quad 3 losses, you know, that's going to factor into why you didn't make the tournament. And the thing that really bothers me about this dilution that's about to happen is that those other squads below them, the Oklahomas, the Mississippi States, Ole Misses, in this expanded format, they come into play.
And I think SEC doesn't play a balanced schedule, so I think that's a factor.
Nobody will see those squads. But the point I'm making is that that's going to apply to every conference. You know, that ACC team that's 8-14 or 7-11 or got a losing record in conference. That A10 conference, that A10 team that has a losing record in conference. Because the bias in terms of selection committee naturally goes towards those brands as opposed to the mid-majors that earn it. And that's one of the reasons why mid-majors have been so adamant about
but those mid-majors don't perform well in matchups against brands, bro. Like that's one thing that people ignore.
I don't buy that at all. And I'll echo what the coach from High Point said. You got to schedule these teams. A lot of these programs, the majors that we're talking about that so-called don't perform, they won't answer the phone to do a home and home during the
They gave St. Mary's a matchup that they were supposed to be able to win. They gave them a team. Like I want to say they gave them Texas A&M.
I'm not
a team they were supposed to be able to beat.
Bruh, I'm not talking about one team. I'm not talking about St. Mary's. I'm talking about the entire trend.
Herb, let me listen. Hey man, let me do a reset right here. Sipping on Sundays. Rocky, I got Rocky, his name of the channel. That's my guy. Yeah. Off script channel. Got my man Herb coming on HBCU Hoops Weekly. Let me show you. So, Rocky, I'm data driven, as Zoe would say. Yeah. I'm going to show you something why this is important. You know, most of the teams, you hear about the 5-12 matchups all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hold on. And the biggest upsets in the 5-12. Now I'm going to show you the 5-12. These are your teams, and this is what I'm talking about, why these teams get smoked. Hold on one second. Because I literally just pulled this up because this is going to prove the opposite of that. Hold on. So look at this. These are the 5-12s. These are the names that you talked about, big names. High Point beat Wisconsin. That's a big power conference. Magnesia 2025 beat Clemson. Let's see. I'll scroll down. 2024, James Madison beat Wisconsin. 2022, New Mexico State beat UConn. 2022, Richmond beat Iowa. 2021, Oregon State, which they're still power conference, beat Tennessee. Murray State, Marquette. Liberty defeated Mississippi State. Middle Tennessee over Minnesota. Your Baylor Bears lost to Yale in 2016. Little Rock defeated Purdue. You see what I'm saying, bro?
But Steve, there's 4 those matchups every year, and you're talking about they win 25% of the time.
You listen what I just said. These teams, you said the name teams. They shouldn't be losing these teams. These are 5 seeds.
No, what I'm saying, okay, Steve, what I'm simply saying, okay, first off, most of those teams in that 12 spot are gonna be conference champions. Like they're gonna be conference champions.
That's our point.
That's the point.
Hold up. Y'all are missing my argument. Hold up. Y'all are missing my argument. When I use St. Mary's for a particular reason. Why did I use Mary, Herb? St. Mary's.
Dude.
Oh, I'm gonna ask you, why did I use them as an example?
I'm not worried about why you use them
because they were an hold on. Because they were an at-large team.
Yeah, they were an at-large.
And everyone on 5 seeds are at-large.
They earned the at-large bid because of what they did in the regular season.
And what did they do with that bid?
Yeah, they got a messed up matchup and they lost. What's the point? That's the appeal of the damn tournament. Rocky, this is what you're missing, man. Regardless of what the brand is, regardless of what you think that squad is supposed to do against that squad in the regular season under regular circumstances, whether the neutral floor or whatever, you have one opportunity in the tournament to execute. One. Okay, whether you're a 12 seed, whether you're a 2 seed, whether you're a 5 seed, that's why you play the games. That's what makes those matchups compelling. Period.
And I'm simply saying, Herb, historically, when those mid-majors get at-large berths, they don't do well. You can look it up, bro. I'm a bettor. I bet real money on these games. And historically, I think mid-majors, right, against power conferences are like 20% in those matchups in the tournament.
Dude, that's at-large. Rocky, you're missing the entire point. Regardless of what the percentages are, that's what attracts fans to the narrative of the tournament.
No, the name brands attract them.
No, they don't. If you look,
the tournament is built on Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, Arkansas. That's what the tournament is built on.
Wait a minute, Herb. Hold on. Let me listen. No. So wait a minute. Hold on.
Rock, I don't know how much.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. There's 2 parts to the tournament. The first weekend is made up of upsets and the little guys. The second part, the 16, you want to see the Carolinas, the Dukes, the Kentuckys, and the Kansas. Rocky, you're 100% right. But what makes the tournament for the regular people that don't watch basketball is the first weekend where you say, oh my God, I've never heard one, and some guy that will never play in the NBA that's going to be an accountant hits a 3 to get Duke's ass up out of there. That's what makes the magic of the tournament.
So Steve, I'm gonna ask you this. Is the Cinderella story real or is it an exaggerated myth?
It's real. And look, man, let me tell you something. At the end of every tournament, they do a one China moment, right? One China moment isn't composed of all chalk. One China moment is composed of buzzer beaters, of upsets, of folks showing grit, whether they're Duke or Fairleigh Dickinson. You can't tell me the 16-1 upsets, that took place. There have been 2 that have taken place in the NCAA history. The first one is UMBC versus Virginia, and the second one was Fairleigh Dickinson. I forgot who the number 1 seed was that they beat. Okay.
I'm sure it was Purdue or Wisconsin.
Yeah, well,
they always get upset.
Whichever one that was a 1 seed that year. The reality is, fans. That's one of the reasons why the NCAA tournament has the viewership that it has. Everybody,
I disagree, but I understand why you say that.
I mean, by your logic, we should all just see chalk every time we watch the tournament. That's not my logic. No, what I'm telling you is that one of the biggest draws of the NCAA tournament as it relates to 64 teams is that one, the 64 best teams, according to what they do in the regular season or the conference tournaments, make the tournament. Regardless of
That's
whether
never been the truth.
but that's the premise. Now the reality is that whoever's on that committee, and we've seen it year in and year out, where we've seen, teams that have been on the bubble, that have made the tournament, losing conference records, and then got bounced out. We've seen a case in the first four when VCU. I think VCU in 2012 went from the first four to the final four.
They did.
Shaka
Smart. We got Shaka Smart.
Those are the storylines that drive the tournament, and that's what people are attracted to. Yeah, people are going to watch the Dukes and the Kentuckys and the Kansases because their fan bases watch it and their brands. We get that, but the other part of the equation is who else can jump in, who can break into that club. That's the storyline. That's what makes the tournament the tournament. The tournament isn't just Duke and the chalk.
No.
The tournament. I want you to hear what I'm saying, Rocky, because this is the difference between, what we see in college basketball during the regular season, what we see during tournament time. Okay, we expect the chalk and the brands to be there. Okay, we expect them to win in the matchups. That's why you roll the ball out on the court and play. What we don't expect are the upsets, and the upsets happen every year without fail. Teams that, I remember when Mercer beat Duke, when Lehigh beat Duke, in HBCU cases, when Hampton beat, when Hampton beat Iowa State, when Coppin State in 1993 beat number 2 seed South Carolina. Those stories are compelling. Those stories are what attract the casual fan that doesn't know anything about the Dukes or the UCLAs or the Kansases or the Kentuckys, and make the spectacle of the NCAA tournament compelling.
And I think someone who romanticizes the NCAA tournament can I finish, bro? Let me just finish. Can I just finish, bro? I think when we romanticize Cinderella, and then as someone analyzes the numbers, we realize that the actual story of Cinderella is far more rare than it actually is in the NCAA tournament. It's actually not that common, and is actually an exaggeration as it being a large part of the tournament. I go back to the last 2 years. Listen what I'm saying. The last 2 years, I think when you got to the Sweet 16, the 13 1 year, 13. I think this year 13 out of the 16 with chalk, and then the year before it was 12 out of 16 with chalk. My point is saying this, Herb. I'm not saying that's not why you love the tournament. I understand why you may love, and the casual fan may love the tournament. But the actual impact of Cinderella is not because they win games, it's because they have the chance to win games. That's Rocky, what it is.
Rocky, you're missing the point. You're tossing out the percentages of which Cinderella's supposed to win or the expected to win. The draw is Cinderella being in the tournament and going up against the Goliath with the chance to win. That's the point. That's the story.
No, that's the story.
I gave you the chance to talk. I want you to.
Okay. All right.
Okay. You talking about romanticizing the tournament? The tournament ain't shit without ain't shit without the quote unquote romanticization that you're talking about, because those are the narratives that fans are drawn to. It's just like football. If you talk about bowl games, you go into a bowl game where you got an underdog. Let's say Navy makes a bowl game and they're playing a brand name. You don't expect them to go in to win, but you watch the game, just to see what happens. The NCAA tournament is chock full of that. And that's what makes the tournament compelling. It's not the percentages at which Cinderella wins. It's the fact that these guys worked hard to make the tournament and to get their chance on the big stage to prove their mettle against those teams. That's what the NCAA tournament is. And what irks me the most when I hear things like this is that if you follow college basketball, and I get it, if you're not a college basketball fan, I'm passionate about it because I watch college basketball. I want to make that clear. So I'm not holding that against you, Rocky. The bottom line is that these squads, when we talk about mid-majors, a lot of these coaches, and I think the coach from High Point summed it up pretty well in his press conference at the end of the tournament. There are times during the course of the year, and I mean on the HBCU front, we could get Robert Jones on the show from Norfolk State. He'll tell you the same thing. They make calls to these guys. They make calls to those programs, which in the context of this show, which makes what Kenny Blakeney is pulling off at Howard even more amazing because of the connections that he's gotten. He's got Notre Dame, Cincinnati, and Power 5 conference to do home and homes with him. If you don't know how hard that is for a low mid-major program to do, that's practically unheard of. And, I say all that to say that's the appeal of the tournament. And the bottom line is that when you increase, that threshold from 64 to what? So what is like 76?
76.
The only thing that you're doing is you're giving, an opportunity for more mediocre ass teams to get into the tournament. Point blank.
Well, this is the last thing I'll say about it when I go in. I understand you love the sport, Herb, and I respect that. And as a person who largely commoditizes college basketball in a way, it is very difficult sometimes to understand what value to put on one of those Cinderella or low major teams, because when you do the comparable to who they play versus who other teams play, it's hard to compare. So a lot of times you look at it on paper and you go, oh, this team should be a great matchup for a team. And then it turns out they end up losing 84 to 55. You know what I mean? And so you're going, how did this happen in this game when this team was middle of the pack in their conference and this team was touted as an elite team based on whatever metric you use to evaluate college basketball teams? And again, there are a number of situations where that happens year after year, and that's why I say it's an exaggeration.
Well, Rocky, I'll just say this, and like I said, I say this with the caveat that I appreciate your viewpoint, and I love you, dude. I got all the respect in the world for you, but I'll say this as somebody that knows the game, follows the game, and watches the game as it relates to not just as somebody that has coached it, but as somebody that watches the game as a fan. Okay, all of that might be well and true, but the spectacle of the tournament is what you do on that stage in that moment. Point blank. Toss all that other BS out the window during the regular season. How you got there, when you're in the tournament, don't matter.
That's sports, though. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you on that.
But that's the tournament, and this is what I think. This is what the disconnect is here. That's the tournament. That's what's compelling about the tournament. Okay, regardless of whether or not you think that mid-major is supposed to be there or not, whether you think they're superior or not, or inferior, whatever, you got to roll the ball out and play. That's where the story's told at. And the reality is that, more often than not, some of the more memorable moments we've gotten from the NCAA tournament have come at the expense of those big teams that we're talking about, and to the benefit of some of the teams that you didn't expect to win. Or
now,
if you look at them on
there we will agree. VCU, Florida Gulf Coast. There are a number of teams that made it to the second weekend that I remember that were very compelling stories. You won't I won't disagree with you on that. But it's very few of those Florida Gulf Coast, and those VCUs, in my opinion.
But Rocky, we're not worried about whether there are very few of those or not. That's not what makes the tournament compelling. What makes the tournament compelling is that those teams have the chance to do and perform and be seen on that stage. Whether they're very few or not. If that's the case, we wouldn't be getting the same storyline if that was, another SEC conference game or another ACC conference game in the tournament. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to.
Can I just want to make one argument, and I'm gonna get off, and because we usually are a football show, and I know 10 times as much football as I know basketball, so I'm not really basketball, but I look at it the same way I look at the college football playoff. I don't think the college football playoff is more compelling when they put a James Madison in and leave Miami out or Texas out. I don't think it makes for a more compelling tournament. I think the mismatches are exacerbated, and it creates really bad TV, in my opinion. Especially the year they put in SMU and left Miami out. That was ridiculous, in my opinion.
Let me ask that. Hold on, Herb. Let me ask that. You're 100% right, but here's the difference.
I agree.
Basketball is only 5 players, so you can have one guy that can be 1 out of 5 is 20%. Last I checked, all you need to have that guy to do is go for 30 or 40 points. He can win the game. Nobody in football, you can't do that in football. That's why.
You're right. One guy go nuts, and he can win the game.
That's what we're talking about with HBCU basketball. And Zoe said you could get 2 guys and have just 3 high school guys. But if you got 2 high-level guys, you can make a run in the tournament because of basketball. Well, listen, we literally have just seen where you just saw Detroit almost get knocked out because them guys from Orlando, Banchero and Bain and boys, and where Wagner got hurt, went nuts.
Yeah,
and Detroit was a better team.
Hey, I'm about to drop off, guys. I'm gonna listen to you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, appreciate it, Rock. Thanks, man.
Hey, no thing, man. Love talking to you guys, man.
Yep.
All right, Herb. We close out what you got, and then we're gonna close it out. Last word.
Yeah, man. Well, first and foremost, man. Again, thank you, guys. Thanks, Rocky. I don't agree with Rocky all the time, but Rocky's solid, man. I appreciate him having me on the show and everything. I'll just leave with this, man. And I say this wholeheartedly as somebody that wants the best for HBCU basketball, regardless of the division or level. There are some coaches and programs and administrations that are on the right track in terms of how to raise your conference profiles. There are some that still got a ways to go, point blank. And then the way the landscape is changing now, whether it relates to the tournament, whether it relates to other postseason opportunities, our administrations have to really be Johnny on the spot in supporting our programs in a lot of ways. One of the things that we've heard from coaches, in particular when it comes to scheduling and having to, schedule specific types of games with the understanding that if we don't schedule a certain way, we don't get paid. And if we don't get paid, we don't keep the lights on. That's an effed up way to run a program. And it's an effed up way to be able to build, a winning, winning culture. I wouldn't wish that on anybody's basketball program, much less our own. You don't see that too much at the Division II level, primarily because of the difference in scholarships and the like. But the reality is that it all starts with who you hire. And in the off season this year, this off season for HBCUs has been one heck of an off season in terms of hires, in terms of getting people in places that can build winning programs. And I think we're seeing that quality kind of come through in the SWAC. I know Mr. Campbell was really excited when Charlie Ward, was hired, and we kind of saw the excitement because as the end of that year came, you know, that Florida A&M team was hard to deal with. You know, I know speaking for myself, you know, as an Alabama State guy, you know, the fact that we landed Chris Wright,
Big hire.
you know, I'm over the moon with that, because that's a national championship caliber coach, regardless of level. I mean, and we can say that across the board, whether it's Nolan Smith, whether, whether it's Lavelle Moten, whether it's Robert Jones, whether, it's Ivan Hawkins down at Hampton, he's doing a heck of a job. As it relates to basketball, there's a lot of potential for our programs there. All we got to do is continue to support and to pour into those programs, and more importantly, make good hires. Make good hires of coaches, make good hires of staff, and administrations that understand. Yeah, Mike Davis' second go around in the SWAC is going to be a good one. He's in a place where he can build something, and they'll give him the support that he needs. I think, debates like this, particularly as it relates to the tournament and as it relates to our place in it, are conversations that need to be had, because we have to really decide as institutions how much we're going to invest in our programs, because the reality is that that's how you compete. That's how, every program at the Division I level competes. What you put into those programs, what your return of investment is. So, I say that, and I'm just looking forward to the next basketball season, man. All this news has still got me excited. Football is great. I love football. I'm just waiting for basketball to hit back. Right?
Well, Herb, I'm with you. Appreciate you, Herb. Listen, I'm gonna say this for a while, then I'm gonna let you sign out. So it's funny. Talked to real good friends with John Wallace, and John told me a story about, he played with Charlie at the Knicks, and he said he had never got hit with a pick so hard about what Charlie Ward hit him with. And he said he is knowing that the intensity of that Florida A&M basketball team is going to be, because he said the toughest guy he played with. Now, this is John Wall, played at Syracuse legend, retired jersey at Syracuse, wore the 44. Toughest basketball player played against was Charlie Ward. So I'm just letting you know, we're super excited. And we got some things. So I'm going to have John come on the show, going to talk about some things that we got working on. So, Herb, listen, tell the people where they can find you at, Herb.
Yes, sir, man. As you see in my background, HBCU Hoops Weekly, I like consider myself the pulse of Black college basketball, but there are a lot of other people that are in the space. Shout out to Liv Antilla, the first lady. Hoops, shout out to HBC Nightly crew. Even though they talk a lot of football, I occasionally get a chance to talk basketball there. But Josh and my boys are solid. I love them. You guys can find me, HBCU Hoops Weekly. You can find me online on Twitter. I would call it Twitter. That's all I'm going to call it. At HBCU HW. HBCU HW. That's the acronym. And website is hbcuhoopsweekly.com. I'll be posting updates for recruiting, news stories, all the like. That's all HBCUs at Division II, Division I, and NAIA. So, man, follow me.
My man, Brother Herb, always coming in. Appreciate you giving that insight about John Wall. And Herb, I'm going to call you because you my guy. And shout out to HBC United, because, man, listen, I'm going to say this, and this is very important, man. This ain't no competition. We all trying to uplift all our schools and stuff like that. So we appreciate Herb comes. Them boys start a little bit earlier than us, and we come right behind y'all, close out the night with us. So, man, we appreciate. Go watch them, and then when they finish up, you come finish with me and Zoe. And of course, when basketball season come around, I'm gonna have my boy Herb on. We're gonna do the thing. So, Herb, appreciate you, man. All right, got Herb out here now, fam. I'm gonna give you because I'm about shutting this thing down, but you did come in 3 times. You got less than a minute. Be very succinct. If I can answer, I can answer. If not, I'll address it next week. Bring you to the state. What you got keeping up, fam? Because I appreciate you watching the show, so I'm going to show you respect. What you got?
Probably don't even need that. I'm gonna keep this short and simple.
Okay.
All right. We're having the wrong conversations because I come with
Okay.
solutions. I'm coming with all that bigger and better and all that fantasy. That ain't gonna get nobody nowhere. We'll just be talking in circles of what we're doing this year and in year out. The solution is simple: a collective effort from the SWAC putting their money and funds together, even if it's for a partner, as a partner to the conference or to a university. Pour it into one HBCU. Do this for 5 to 10 years. Go into a 5 to 10 year debt mark. Get as close to $100 million as you can. Pour it into one university. Turn that into $1 billion university. Or you can come together as a collective, do group economics, form a super conference, and you'll have the money that you need. But what it will take is a dominant HBCU to beat these FBS and these G5 teams consistently, along with the undefeated season. They need an undefeated conference season in order to get a fair shake in the NCAA March Madness tournament to get past the first round, because that's the first step. If they can get past the first round, then they can work towards getting past the second, and so on and so on, etc. But they need at least one dominant HBCU to pull this off consistently. And I can only think of one university to where the state won't interfere or give them any trouble.
And who is
And
that?
that is Delaware State in the MEAC. Why do I say this?
Maybe because
Why do you think I say this?
Because they're in the blue state.
Bingo. Bingo. If the MEAC and the SWAC can put their pride and their ego to the side, and as a collective, do collective effort, group economics, true group economics, and they can pour all their money into one Delaware state, they will have a dominant FBS school that will change the narrative of everything. Because you don't have to be the #1 team in the nation. All you have to do is be a top-ranked team, and the narrative instantly shifts. Because you have to beat their best in order for the narratives to change. I don't care how many times you beat the lower-ranked teams in their conferences, you have to be a top-ranked team in order to get universally televised or recognized. Because they're always, and I say this forever and a day, they are always going to change the narrative because you are an HBCU. You have to beat their best or be at least competitive with the best in order for the narratives to change. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. All right. So let me make sure I got stops. We all need to come together in the back room, and we're going to say who the prettiest girl, and we're going to put her out there to be the queen. Is that what you're saying? Simple.
The prettiest girl, I'm talking about 2 universities I can name off top, right? Is FAMU and Jackson State. But there's a problem. They're in red states, and of course, the NCAA. You have to find a university to where there's a workaround. Who is the PWI in the state that they can beat? That's Delaware State and Delaware. You dominate them. You change the narrative. You're consistently beating them year in and year out. You pour all of your resources into this one HBCU as a collective, even if you have to go into debt for 5 to 10 years. So you do this every 5 to 10 years. You work your way out of the debt as a collective, as a conference, or as conferences.
So wait a minute.
Pour all your resources.
What you said, now you talked about salute. So if we pouring this, so what are we expecting Delaware State to do, to make a run in the tournament where they get to the Final Four?
Correct, because you'll need something called what's the word I'm looking for here? You need momentum.
Okay.
You need someone that the students and the student athletes can get behind, who they will follow, who they will run through a brick wall for.
Uh-huh.
Then you put the stars behind them. The students, the smartest and the brightest, will see this. They'll say, okay, this is a university that's taking themselves seriously, because the eyes of the public are taking this university seriously, because now they're able to compete with the best in the world.
So Howard.
If you can change the narrative.
Wait a minute. So what? So Howard, South Carolina State, North Carolina Central, Morgan. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody in there. Morgan State. No, that's the ones. Does Coppin play basketball with them? I don't know. So anyway, let's just do the ones I named. They're supposed to take a back seat. Say, Delaware, you go be the flagship. We're gonna be cool with that, and you hold the banner for all of Black America. Thank you, Herb. Coppin State and you and me.
Not for all of Black America, but to be the one HBCU that will pull up the rest. Because if you can do this for one university, and it is successful.
But how does that pull up Howard and Central? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Because the narrative changes. If you are competing and beating the top ranked teams in the nation, the narrative switches. The finances come, the partnerships comes. Now everybody and their mother is wanting to be a part. Why? Because you are a part of a dominant and a consistent winner. If you can pull this off,
you don't feel there's enough.
This one,
you don't feel there's a okay. So financially, okay, I'm with you. So because financially, you can't split it all out. There's not enough players that you can split all of them to come. So you're gonna have to pick and choose your battle. That's what you're telling me. But see,
basically, what I'm telling you is this.
Right, now, Glenn, thank you, Glenn, because you know what's funny, and I think this is what the whole thing. You know what? This was the whole. Did Deion help the swagger? Did Deion help Jackson State argument? Right? I'm not saying right or wrong, but this was the argument. Deion comes to Jackson State. It raised the whole conference. What a lot of people argue say no, it raised the profile of Jackson State because it didn't help A&M, Alabama A&M. It didn't help Arkansas Pine Bluff. It didn't help Bethune-Cookman. I'm talking about schools that needed help because Grambling, Southern, Jackson State. I mean, Grambling, Southern, FAMU didn't need any help. They already had a name, and Jackson State didn't. So I don't know how that works when they tried. This was tried.
I'll tell you how it works. And no, they didn't try this because there's something that they did. They failed to do.
What's that?
For one, Deion Sanders left.
Okay.
They replaced him with T.C. Taylor. That was the one fall. The next fall was that they didn't go after the FCS title. That's the second fall. The next fall, they didn't try to at least make an FBS jump out of fear of not being able to maintain themselves. Why? Because they all felt like the clock on Deion at Jackson State was ticking. What I am telling you is this, because that has nothing to do with what I'm stating now.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that was the argument that people made, right?
That was the argument that they.
You will acknowledge that.
That was the argument. That was the argument that they tried to make. But you can't make it for one if Deion didn't have the time, right? Because he was only there for 2 years.
Yeah.
If he didn't have the time to go after the FCS title and win the championship, then successfully make the FBS transition. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about now. I know that was the narrative that they tried to go for. I already know what the narrative was. If he stays, then they have the money, they have everything in place, right? To make a FCS title jump. I mean, to make an FCS title run, right? To college football players and to get into the FBS. I already know what the narrative about that was. The problem was that they replaced him with T.C. Taylor. In other words, the momentum slowly but surely over time started to slowly decrease. Their attendance started to slowly decrease. What I'm saying is that Delaware State has the guy right now that they can replace with another guy. So the momentum is already there, but the trajectory is climbing up. Why? Because you have a guy that's there competing for championships already. You have the figurehead in place. Once he leaves, you replace him with another figurehead. Now you're doing something called true group economics. You're putting all of your finances into one university to say, hey, look, we're going to go turn this SCS team, this HBCU, into an SCS title contender, and we're going to win the FCS championship. Because the FBS cannot deny you if you're beating the very best in the FCS. Now they're looking at you as someone that they can add value to their conference. They're going to vote Delaware State in to break up the other HBCUs that they pay. And now we're talking about potentially $500,000 to $1 million for playing one HBCU. You created a dominant or consistent winner. You do the same model for the other HBCUs until they are all FBS programs. So now there's one university that the world is looking at is now saying, hey, if Delaware State can do it, then what about another HBCU? And you continue that trend until you get all of them into the FBS, right? And now the narrative switches. Why? Because now your HBCUs are beating the very best in the NCAA.
Okay, fam.
These HBCUs that didn't have value, that now have value, that picked up one HBCU, that picked up the collective as a total to finance all the other HBCUs, right? You have now created something called an economic financial vehicle for the rest of the HBCUs. But you got to start off with at least one. If you can get one successful, the rest will follow because of this thing called momentum, and now the mentality shifts. Now they know without a shadow of a doubt that they can compete with the very best. Why? Because let me finish. Because the things that you need in place are, let me finish before you get started.
I'm not about to get
Let me
started.
just end on this note, and then when I end, I'm up out of here is what I'm saying. Once you change the narrative, once the narrative shifts, the mind frame shifts. Now what's once impossible is now possible. You have to study economics, something called the production possibilities curve or frontier. What was once impossible is now possible because of the added value, right? For something that was impossible because you created something that was once not there. It's all economics, the whole entire thing. Use one HBCU to become a dominant HBCU to raise up the rest. But it has to start off with one, and there has to be belief behind it, because if there's any doubt anywhere, none of it will work.
Okay.
And we'll continue to have this same conversation year in and year out of why it's them and why it's not us.
All right.
All it takes is group economics and a collective effort, and we can achieve anything.
All right. Assalamu alaikum. Woo. Okay. You know, I'm going to tell you what's funny. If I lived in the Marvel universe, I almost would have believed that, right? I almost, in that alternate universe where the X-Men are at, maybe that's what happened. But in this universe, there's no way you're going to tell FAMU to wait 10 years to be number one. I understand this point. I actually understand this point. But I don't think that is the point that needs to work here. I got that. There you go. See, I tell you what, and this is why I'm gonna close the show out on. I got a better way of doing this, and I think I can get this faster, because he said the Ruby Red State's not gonna do it. Well, you know the Ruby Red State don't do it because y'all don't vote. How about we do this group economics for voting? How about we go to Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, South Carolina, North Carolina, and we do group economics for voting. And we make sure that anybody that's running, we're going to have our own platform. You fund HBCUs, because we already know if we vote, we win. That sounds like Obama right there. If we vote, we win. Georgia, North Carolina, Louisiana, they already said all y'all don't vote. A&T. So how about we do that and we change the narrative there and have those people voted out. We vote our people in, and A&T can get that $2 billion. Because I tell you one thing, North Carolina A&T get that $2 billion, they can beat a whole lot of people. If Jackson State get their $500 million, Alcorn, FAMU, Southern $2 billion, Tennessee State $1 billion, and I can do that real quick. I don't need no 5 to 10 years. We literally had a black president because black folks voted, gave us the margins. We got a couple of white people that come along for the ride. We don't need that many. In Mississippi, you're already at 31%. You don't need 21% of the white folks. The other 80% don't even have to vote for you. And that's in almost in every state. So how about let's do that group economics? How about we go register to vote? How we go vote people that believe in what we believe in? How about we fight that fight? Because I think we can fight that fight quicker and we'll get more out of it You'll get better schools. You'll get people that care about your jobs. You'll be able to say black at your school, African American history. That's what I'm talking about. So, fam, I hear what you're saying, but I'm the type of person, like you say, don't believe the unbelievable. You say that the impossible, this is the impossible I'm asking for. I want all black folks in all these southern ruby red states to go vote, and let's flip these summer guns up out of here, and let's go get our money that's owed us. Because I'm telling you what I believe, if we get the money that we owed us, ain't nobody going to want to play us. Ain't nobody going to want to play us. Trust me, ain't nobody going to want to play us in Florida. We got $2 billion. Ain't nobody going to want to play Southern. They got $2 billion. Ain't nobody going to want to play A&T. They got $2 billion. Ain't nobody going to want to play Prairie View. I think Prairie View about $600-700 million, probably. Nobody going to want to play them. Because all of a sudden, to your point, things are even. When I go recruit, ain't nobody going to talk about how my gym look or how my weight room looks or do I have food to eat. We got all that and we still got money. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. How about you change that narrative? And that's free tonight. Sipping on Sundays. I'm going to ask you one question. What y'all sipping on?